Are they taking a breather? Because they don't seem, earlier on we saw them really driving hard. I don't want to be disrespectful to them, but are they just sort of taking it to about 9/10 at the moment?
Yes, with 79 k's to go, I think they're not really giving the 100%, and that's, I suppose, the best tactic to do it, because if you start giving it 100% now and you start pulling out your lead again, well, the US posters will up it behind, and if you just can keep this hovering at this gap and get onto the final climb with a good lead, well then Virenque could climb very fast if he still have got the good legs. So you've got to calculate it, and if you give it everything too early, you're definitely going to pay the price. And when you see the distance they have to go at this moment, 79 k's is still a long road to the finish, considering the distance they have been out there. Klein, as you said, he got caught there, but he did it was 146 k's of a breakaway, which is a long way to be out there in a break.
And there's the main string of riders, and you see they're going a bit up, because although they had that third category climb a bit down the road, there was still a bit of a rolling way up towards the top. And when we just going, as we saw there, with 80 kilometres to go to Le Sapi, that is not quite at the top of the drag. They're on a nice little drag. When they get to the top of that one, then it will start to go down. So it's dragged on since the third category climb, and you can see that's the reason that Landis here out of the saddle, whereas it looks like our leading group have gone over the top of that little blip and are on the way down into the valley. A nice little swoop down into the valley. When they get down there after 170 kilometres they've been covered in this race, about 30 kilometres to go down into the valley, get through Arthaz Pont de Notre Dame, and that was 60 kilometres to go from the finish. And that really is the steady long drag up towards the first category climb, which they'll get to with only they go over the top of the first category climb, 22 kilometres to go from the finish. So that's the situation with the race. And back there, the yellow jersey has been seconded to be the water carrier. As you say, Sean, this is most unusual, isn't it,
Yes, it's definitely unusual to see the yellow jersey, and it's not the first time we've seen him today to be coming back and getting bottles. We see they have one at the back of his neck under his jersey, and we see other riders there also. Ekimot, I think it is, or Rivera, I'm not sure, but it's the race leader is a surprising one to see him coming back, and it's something that he knows that he had a jersey for a number of days. Today, depending on what way the race goes in the end, he could hold on to it, but if there's work to be done where Lance needs some riding to be done, and there's not other teammates there, well, he will be one will be called in, and Payne he realises that, and I think he's very happy with what he's got out of this tour, holding that jersey for a number of days. I think he would never expected this coming into the tour. He would have signed for it immediately if we told him in Paris you can have the yellow jersey for a number of days.
And the whole of Colombia has taken that to its heart, because they have got their first ever Tour de France yellow jersey. They've had many stage victories in the past, particularly from the specialist climbers like Chavanel, who is here on the tour on this occasion amongst the VIPs. That was a great thing to do. They were excellent climbers, excellent stage victories, but they didn't get the yellow jersey until Victor Hugo Peña got it a couple of days ago. The Colombians also last year had something to celebrate when Botero won the time trial championship of the world, and that was a tremendous occasion again as far as they're concerned. So the Colombians, who've been very much involved in the sport here, cycling over the earth, they were the first full amateur team, in fact, to tackle the professionals when special dispensation was made for the amateur professionals to come together, and that was on that occasion. It was I'm just pointing out, yes, it's Hamilton still soldiering on. Were we able to get through to Sean Yates on the phone, Sean? Have we tried him? Was it difficult then?
No, we didn't. We never got the call, so I presume in the mountains here they're not getting through. That's a problem here on some of the mountain stages. We plan out to have it have a call, but it doesn't go through with our mobiles on some occasions.
Well, then, so we can't touch base yet, but Chris has arrived with us now. Maybe have some information on that score. But just going back to the Botero, who won the time trial championship of the world, and again almost made himself a national hero last October. We must overlook the fact, which was mention at the start of our programme that the man who took the King of the Mountains jersey when the race last came here, it was the year 2000 when Virenque won the stage, that the man who got the King of the Mountains jersey on that occasion was none other than Mr. Blue Eyes himself. I have to say it because Chris is here, Botero. He got the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France in the year 2000 when Lance Armstrong ran out winner and Ulrich was second, Belocchi was third, and so on that occasion he got the jersey for the mountain climbing. So that just gives you some idea. Now he's moved on from the Kelme team into the Telecom team. So Botero today might show how he's going on. We might see from the performance of Hamilton how his cracked collarbone or broken collarbone is holding up as that big climb is yet to come. That will be 23 kilometres from the finish of the race. Right then, Christy, and okay, you two, have a little tete-a-tete. I'll come back and keep the commentary going for 5 minutes.
Christy is crying, Pataki is out.
Is that what it is? Did she know that?
Well, actually I did, because Phil called me and he said, "You're not going to believe this. Guess who just climbed in the team car?" And I said, "Oh, who?" And he said, "Pataki." I said, "Oh, you have to be kidding." I said, "What was it? You know, what's the reason? Have they given a reason yet?"
He didn't need to be given a reason. He was on his knees.
Was he? He was going backward, was he?
He just came to a grinding halt. His legs went. I don't know whether he's been sick or whether he didn't sleep well last night, or whether he's had some problems. Often riders can have a sickness, but in reality that climb straight on, I'm not sure about your opinion about it, but he just looked like he'd run out of steam, hadn't he?
Well, his director Ferretti was he has said that Pataki, he's not in his head, he wasn't right. He said, although he was sprinting very well, he said he's not that bad that he can't sustain a gruppetto. He was suggesting that, and he said that he just wasn't right in the head and he wasn't focused to get through these mountains.
Yeah, because the team car went back to him, didn't it, and said something to him. It was Volpi, I think, that said something to him, and for about another, I don't know, kilometre, he was right lively, and so he was gone again.
Yes, well, the team car, Volpi, we see, came back there, and they were encouraging, trying to get him to continue on, and he did make a little of a burst for a couple of 100 metres, but it did not last. It was very short lasting. So he was, he was thinking about going home. He had it in his head, and the team tried everything, but it did not just work out.
So we had a number of retirements today, 73 kilometres to go, and amongst those then was Pataki. If you've been listening to only our coverage of the Tour de France here on Saturday, we will just go backwards and forwards a bit from what's been happening, and if you've been with us right the way since the start, do bear with us if we're repeating things you already know, because we get a lot of viewers coming in and dipping out of the programme, and being Saturday, maybe some people who haven't been able to see afternoon show, or maybe in the evenings to watch our highlights programme, or even the review at the end of each stage by Mike Smith. Pataki, we've just been talking about, came into the Tour with 39 victories in his career under his belt. He took 6 stages in the Tour of Italy, and then he went on here to take 4 stages in the Tour de France. So of the early stage on the flat, he was quite dominant until we went to a bit of a short, sharp climb on stage 2, and he just got blown out with 8 kilometres to go. So that gave us an indication that he wasn't the world's greatest survivor in the climbs, and today he's packed it up. And it was just night before last that Christy was out there talking to him, and was chatting away to him about his future and what was going to happen in the race. And Christy, I think he said he did want to get to Champs-Élysées, but that's, everyone wants to do that, but it looks like he's not made it. I see the tears running down your cheeks.
It is disappointing, I have to tell you.
Just a little touch of mascara to put it back again.
Well, I'll tell you what, it is disappointing to see him pull out at this point, but he made it very clear there was a plan A and a plan B. And the plan A was to make it to Paris, but plan B, which is very much going to be implemented now, is to take a break, recover, and gear it up again for the next Grand Tour, which is, of course, the Vuelta. And I'm sure that's what he will be doing. I actually stood in the middle of the road and stopped his team bus as they were coming into town and said, tell me what's going on, what's happened. And they said he'll be talking to the press and just come to the hotel later and he'll tell you what happened. So I will check that out tonight and have an answer for you as to what he's going to do, but he will be in town tonight. But I feel like it's a real consolation prize for me today, because Bettini's out the front, and he's been out the front all day, and he's looking like he's not doing it too hard.
Has he got blue eyes as well?
I don't know, actually. I'll tell you tomorrow.
You'll gather from this, dear viewer, if you're listening to our program the first time, that Christy has a thing about got some information coming up now. Did you get that, Sean?
Yes, sorry, Manzano, he had heat stroke, and they're not concerned about him, that he's in no danger, he's okay.
Yeah, that was on the Col de Port to begin with, as Manzano was trying to cross the gap, and he obviously completely ran out of steam. We just sort of saw him on the side of the road, didn't we?
Well,
Sean?
I think, you know, he really attacked that climb really hard. He was under pressure, I'd say, from the team to try and get across that break, because the Kelme riders were attacking a lot behind it. I'd say they got a bit of a word from the team manager, you know, how come you're not up there, and he went really hard with ranking his wheel, and he probably attacked the climb too hard and just overheated the motor too quickly.
We've heard about going into the red. Well, he went into the ditch, didn't he? That took him completely down. Watching Eric Zabel here, who had a mishap yesterday, crashed and came down with Robert McKeown, coming back doing a domestics job. He is the champion of Germany, that's why he's got that jersey. And here we are, the wheels are going round. Yet another example of the enthusiasm for the sport and the ingenuity of the people on the side of the road. And Christy, I think you've seen plenty of this too as well, haven't you? Oh, Rich is abandoned now. Off, another one's gone. And another one bites the dust. Oh.
I've seen some incredible sights on the way up, and I stopped about 10 kilometers from the finish because there was a circus there, and they have parked the elephants on the course so that they can actually reach over with their trunks. If someone was walking on the course, if a rider had some hay in his hand, he could feed them on the way by. And they're very switched on elephants. I actually stopped and fed them a bit, and had a look at some of the other animals. The zebra's not far from the course either, and it was really incredible. Everybody's come out, and they purposely have put them just lining the course, and nobody's standing in front of them. So it'll be interesting to see the riders' reaction if they can even look up enough to see the elephants with their trunks over the edge.
Well, I hope Bettini doesn't think it's a snake, because do you remember it's Sir Langkawi when he ran over a snake and all the rest of the field ran over it? It was oh yes, and also he got bitten by a monkey, did Bettini. He went out with some training ride.
I remember that.
That's right, got bitten by a monkey.
I think he tried to feed the monkey, the big no-no.
Yeah, and he got bitten, and also he and the rest of the field went over this snake on the road as well. Right, back then with Christy, what have you got here on Auto Gem for us?
Well, I've been watching the U.S. Postal team just since I've arrived, and you can see they're riding very much within themselves, and they're not struggling. But I spoke to Yogi Mueller, and you were saying, you know, Colombia's up and you know, just elated with Peña's performance, and certainly, again, the man hasn't stopped smiling in 3 days. But apparently they're calling him at all hours of the night. They're waking him up, and Yogi Mueller, who's their public relations officer, former rider, he said he fields all the telephone calls, and he's saying, look, no, he's eating, and they go, okay, we'll just get him from the table. And he's eating. You know, there's food in his mouth right now. He can't talk every minute, but he has been just inundated with press nonstop for the last 3 days. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But what's happened is it's shut down all information from the U.S. Postal team to anyone. And in fact, Frankie Andreo, who was a former U.S. Postal cyclist, was trying to interview one of the soigneurs who was packing up the car, and he's saying, okay, on an average day, you know, and he was doing this to camera, on an average day, how many bottles are you going through in this heat? And all of a sudden his camera was blocked. He was told, stop, the staff is not allowed to talk to the press, period, end of discussion.
That's a great shame, you know, Christy, because I found it with the US Postals a couple of times recently, and quite frankly, I don't go any near them, because the same thing, they're blocking everything off, they're selecting the people they're going to talk to, and those who have known Lance and many of the members of the team for many, many years now, can't get to. It's always with Johnny come lately. There are other journalists on the race now. There are other media. I know the Americans want, you know, to take charge of this. They want the input, but they've got to recognise this is a worldwide sport, and other people want to hear what's happening with the U.S. Postal team. And I've noticed that, and so I've given up. I mean, I did saw George Hincapie. How did I bump into him a bit back, and just got a quick word and a smile from him, because he has been through a bit of bad patch, and I asked him what his future was going on, and as a good friend for many years years ago, he just said, yeah, my target now is to ride for the, apart from what he's going to do here, is the Tour of Spain and then go on to ride the Worlds, because I haven't had a good start to season. It was just one of the little chats you have. But they're blocking those off now, and I think that's a great shame, because cycling to me always has been an accessible sport. I think you'll agree with this, Sean, haven't you? The riders in the years gone by, you could sit there and journalists come. Sometimes it might be a bit of a nuisance, but at least you can say yes or no, or sorry, I'm busy or something. But how do you react to this sort of modern phenomenon, Sean?
Well, I think it's, that the plan is there that the riders don't talk too much to the journalists. And I know in my time when I was with the Garibaldi, he said, well, when I was racing a lot and maybe racing too many races in the year, he said, if you listen to the journalists too much, they'll automatically make you tired, because they say to you all the time you're going to be tired. He said, physically you won't be tired, but mentally they will make you tired. And I think it's something the same in the US Postal team. They don't want to have, too much contact with the media, because they would be inundated with it, because there's so many people on the Tour of France now, and they all want a piece of the US Postal. They can't get to Lance, so the next best thing is one of the teammates. So I think they're trying to limit that, and it is a pity for the sport that that's happening, but that's the way the Tour of France is becoming. And a lot of the journalists, and especially the ones who have been around for a long time, are they're very angry about that. But that is, I think, the way the sport is going at the moment, which is unfortunately.
Yes, it is, because it's a very open sport. People on the side of the road can watch it, and we try and bring you it as we see it. But anyway, that's the way it is, and let's see what's coming up next. I think it's a bit of a break.
Yes, good afternoon. Back on the Tour de France. We still have our 4 riders around the 8 minutes, which is, they're holding on very well. 64 kilometers to go. It looks like, Virenque and Bettini and Aldag, they could hold on out here if they can hold this to the last climb. Virenque being such a good climber, I think it's still possible for him to climb the last, well, not the last climb of the day, but the major climb of the day, Col de Ramaz, which is a first category climb at 22 kilometers to the finish from the top. So it's going to be a long, hard day for those riders, and the US Postals are not allowing them, as we said earlier on, to take a major advantage, because with Virenque, of course, being a good climber, and also for the general, you never know what he could produce if he took over the yellow jersey and got a substantial lead.
Well, Sean, it was interesting at the start to look at some of the, I guess, the usual suspects in the mountains, and to see how their sort of preparation, and if they feel confident. And some riders, even if they are feeling confident, are nervous and anxious. And I think that was the case very much on the Vinnie Calderola team this morning. Spoke to Eddie Mazzolini and Stefano Garzelli, and certainly they know they have their work cut out for them today, and if they're going to hope for any sort of chance or shot with Garzelli in the top 3 positions in Paris, they've got to make their move on every mountain stage. So, and Eddie, who has been performing really, really well in support of Garzelli's climbing efforts, was in particular nervous this morning and very sort of edgy. Garzelli, on the other hand, was just quiet, and he was just wanted to stay in the car and not really talk to anyone. He was sort of getting his head together for the race. Now, in dramatic contrast to that, the Seiko team decided this morning to do the big publicity stunt by Cannondale, bring out the bike that was below regulation weight and change the colors of their uniforms. Cannondale, of course, paying all the fines for these infractions. And there's even a protest on the sleeve or on the jersey, saying, you should please allow Gilberto Simone's bike, even though it's 6.4 kilograms. But it's an incredible looking machine, and I think they picked an interesting day to make a splash at the start.
Yes, well, interesting, I suppose, is David is the man who will talk about the weight of the bicycle, because he has his ideas about that. But we were asking questions, and everybody here in the commentary area were asking questions, because the Seiko team did start with a different colour jersey, and everybody is looking at each other here, and we were all surprised. But we did hear later that they were going to get a fine from the UCI for today for riding with these jerseys.
Cannondale's actually done a few promotions in collaboration with Seiko of exactly this nature. I remember Mario Cipollini showing up to the stage after the Metz time trial in, I think it was 2000 or 2001. I think it was 2000. or maybe it was 99. I don't know. I can't remember, obviously, but he came dressed as Caesar, and they rode in gold and white colors, like golden nicks and a white jersey. And it was all done for the same purpose. It was the first mountain stage of the tour. They didn't know what they were going to do that year in that stage, and they thought they would grab some of the glory before it sort of got ugly out on the road.
Well, of course, we all know the Italians are, they like that. They like, coming out and, causing surprises. And of course, Cipollini was the man who really brought that about. He, started changing his bike to match his green jersey or his yellow jersey, whatever colour he was wearing, and also the kit, the shorts. So. But I think it's good for cycling, because the exposure that that it brings, and it gets the team. I think it makes it more colourful, because cycling, a number of years ago, it was very dull, and the shorts and jerseys had been much the same for a number of years.
Oh, it's great. I mean, anything which livens it up and gives character to it. I mean, Mario Cipollini himself livens up the event, any event, because of the character he brings. But now you see riders like Fabio Sacchi, also doing the same thing. He's got a cheetah painted on his bike, and his hair, it's supposed to be, I think, a cheetah pelt, but I'm not really sure. I think they left him alone in the bathroom with the peroxide. It's a bit bizarre. But anyway, it is fun to see them at least enjoying what they're doing and developing some fun character traits. And it allows also people on the side of the road to pick them out of the peloton and know what they're seeing. A lot of times it's hard to if the jerseys are too complicated, everyone ends up looking exactly the same. That's what's nice about the national jerseys too. Like here on Bettini, you see the Italian flag. You can see him anywhere in the peloton. It's very easy to pick him out. And I am just so happy he's in this break today and doing so well.
Yes, well, of course, Bettini, we've seen him during the week. He's been quite active, so the form must be good, because any day that was a little bit hilly in the end, he was always in the attack there. So he's had a very good tour, and it's nice to see him up there today as we go into the 60 kilometers to go on 7:55. So the gap is not coming down quickly. So if these guys have Virenque, Bettini, Aldag, if they have a lot left in the tank, they could go a long ways into this climb.
I see the U.S. Postals are staying on the front pretty much. It looks like they're just trying to stay out of trouble. Is that how you would read that?
Well, the U.S. Postals, they have been doing a lot of the riding, all the riding really today. They've been setting the pace, but they've been very comfortable setting the pace. They've upped the pace on a number of occasions, and then when the gap started to come down, I think they just turned it down a notch and just left the gap as it was, 6, 7, 8 minutes, and that's what they've been doing. And they've no worries here, because when you look at this climb, the first category climb called the Ramaz, I think the action that will come here when we hit this climb from the other favourites, I think this gap will come down drastically and quickly. So they are not worried about trying to pull this gap back before they get to that first category climb.
I look forward to seeing how riders like Pelizzotti from the Alessio team go. He's a 22-year-old man, but I mean, it seems so young. He almost seems like a kid. And when you look at him, he's the one with the long curly hair. It's really quite big hair. And he had an amazing Giro. He was in the action all the time. He was the Giro's revelation. There's been an accident here, Sean. Someone's come out unstuck.
Yes, number 72 has come down. So that is Blooding Michael from CSC. He over race radio, he crashed in the corner.
But riders, as I was saying about Pelizzotti, he's a young rider. He was the Tour revelation of the Giro, and I look to see him maybe not so much on this stage, although I think he will climb this first category climb quite easily. But tomorrow's stage, I look to see him in the action. His director feels really good and confident about having him here at the Tour, even at the young age of 22. And also David Miller. I'm curious, because this morning he was so confident, and he said, look, he's not done any work in the Tour so far. He's looked after himself perfectly, and yeah, it's what's happened here? Train.
So this folks, this will give the advantage. I'm not sure in France, viewers, if if the leading group is allowed with the advantage. I know certainly in Belgium, if there's a breakaway and they get through the level crossing, they're allowed the advantage they go through it. So if this is the case here, they will pull out a number of minutes here if they get stopped, depending on how long the main bunch gets stopped up for. But talking about David Miller, he said that he's looking forward to the mountains this year. The way he was climbing the Dauphiné, he's not afraid, he said, of the mountains. As we see the US posters again, just quite relaxed, setting the pace here, quite comfortable.
Oh, Sean and Christy, we've got the story of the break coming over in a moment because, we're having a bit of a problem with the piece of cheese, as David used to call it, so hopefully we'll get that. But whilst we're waiting for that, Sean, there it is. I've got something else to tell you as well. There's the facts of the breakaway, Sean and Christy, and just look, it's gone up, it's come back a bit, it's gone up, come back. Really has been an up and down lead this throughout for these guys, with the two quick-step boys really dominating this four-man break. Currently at 7 minutes 55 as they get ever nearer to the big climb of the day, Col de la Ramaz. But just to get away from that moment, whilst it's still on the screen, I just quickly rifled through the Tour de France regulations, and there's a very specific regulation about what happens if riders are delayed at railroad crossings. And in the situation that developed there, where the brakemen were safely over the crossing and it was the peloton that was stopped, here is what it says. If a lead rider or riders successfully negotiate the railroad crossing before the barrier comes down and then the rest of the field is held up, no action is taken, and the fact that the barrier is down is considered a mere race incident. So there you are, the both of you.
Yes, well, I wasn't sure, Mike, if it was the same. Belgium is the same. When you get through with a breakaway, you're allowed the advantage if the bunch gets caught behind the barriers. So it is exactly the same.
That's also the case if the front group or the chasing peloton go the wrong way on the course, isn't it? Because you're supposed to know your course. If you get lost, the advantage goes to whoever is in front in the end.
That's well, the regulation is you're supposed to know the road. I don't know if you go astray what they exactly are. With 56 kilometers to the finish, and the gap, is still quite a good gap, 7:55. So this group working quite well together, considering we have two from the quick-step team, Bettini and Virenque. The other two riders are still, sharing their work and doing as much as the other riders, and it's always a difficult situation when you have two riders in the same team. Riders are a little afraid to do the work because they know they're going to be worked over in the final. But the rider from Credit Agricole, Poivet and Aldag from Telecom still contributing quite a lot of the pace setting here in the front. Yeah. Any more news from the start day this morning, Chris?
Well, looking at Aldag just reminded me of Eric Zabel at the start, was looking incredibly relaxed. And I'm sure when it came over his headphones that Pataki had pulled out, that he got that extra little bit of burst. And it's a ride of attrition in many cases just to make it to Paris. And of course, Zabel's shown us time and time again that he has no problem finishing the Tour de France. So he could still be in, even though he had a bad first week, he could still be in the running for the green jersey in Paris. So I think today, as we see riders like Pataki and other sprinters start to retire, I think Zabel is going to be gaining morale throughout this 3-week period. So I think it was actually for his tour, I think it was a good thing. Now when we looked at the peloton before, I noticed that Ulrich and Miller were riding side by side. They're just hovering around Lance at the moment. And David was surprisingly confident at the start. He said, his tour begins today. I feel good. I've done no work so far. And the only time he's ever spoken to me like that before in the tour was the stage that ended in Béziers when he won the stage. And he said to me right after the win, he said, I told you at the start, today's my day. And so he's told me today is his day, and I'm curious to see if he's going to make that stick.
Yes, well, that's quite true. He's been very confident, and the interviews he's been doing, he seemed to be more confident this year. But of course, he's always been quite a confident guy. But I reckon this year he's a bit more confident after his performance in the Dauphiné, especially his climbing. I think it's improved a lot, and hopefully that he will get through these 2 stages quite well, because I think he has got the potential to do that. And I've said it before, I don't think we've seen the best of David Millar yet, so hopefully this year will be the year.
Yeah, the other thing was I spoke to him about what we're doing with the heart rate monitors, and I said, you know, David, you'd enjoy that, wouldn't you? And he goes, no, you won't see me doing that. And I said, oh, really? That's interesting. Why not? He said, because I don't want to tell the world what my heart is doing. And I thought that was a funny sort of thing. I mean, he's for a confident person who you'd think would enjoy knowing that we're talking about him all day long and that we're watching his you know, his peak performance and whatnot, you'd think he would be up for that. But
well, maybe he didn't want to give anything away.
Well, I think that was the message.
And certainly here, this leading group are not giving anything away. You know, they're still holding on out there. 8 minutes 50 we got there at 54 kilometers to go. So you know, they're definitely putting in a good ride. And as we said earlier, David, I think they have spared some for the end. They did not give the 100% earlier on, and I think you know, Virenque and Bettini, they still have quite a lot left in the tank. And Aldag, he's, you know, still going through quite well, and Pulvet, he's you know, still looks quite strong. So I think they will go a long ways into this stage, and certainly Virenque on this climb, the first category climb called the Ramaz, we will see a lot of action from him.
Yes, thank you to Sean and to Chris holding the fort. I've been to see a man about a dog. We actually stayed in the Labrador hotel last night, and it was a long way back to Les Jettes. I'm exaggerating. It was a man about a dog, and it was a long way round, and I was nearly allowed not to get back here by the constabulary. Yes, I saw the train stop as I was walking past. I just saw in the distance on the big screen there's a bit of a problem back there, but it's absolute. The people here are phenomenal, because normally we have a little loo and I couldn't spot it, so I went down the back and down a little narrow place, and they're just heaving, all trying to get in to see the finish down there. And so when I came back, a policeman was in charge, and it took a lot of persuading, even though I've got an official pass and everything else around here, who I wasn't to be allowed through there. So it's tremendous, the atmosphere here today, and when they get in at the end of this stage, and certainly if that little group stay out to front, they're going to get a hero's welcome, particularly Virenque, because I don't know what you think, really, Chris, you've been on this place for many years. He's still the French favourite, isn't he? Something about Virenque, I know Jalabert was very much in people's mind as a favourite, but there's something else about Virenque, and everywhere you go there'll be swarms of people chasing after you, even more than after people like Jalabert.
Well, Richard Virenque has done a few things that have just been fantastic. When he first started having success in 1993, he won a bicycle in one of his very, very first wins. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was down in the Côte d'Azur somewhere. And he donated it to a child. He immediately gave it to a child. He didn't keep it, and he did several things like that right at the beginning of his successful years that put him in the hearts of the French people forever. And he did some charity rides and other work like that. So there's a lot to Richard Virenque that you don't just see from seeing him ride his bike. I mean, of course, he's a performer. He wins stages in the Tour all the time, and he's been on the podium in Paris with the polka dot jersey 3 times or 4. I think it's 3 times.
I'll get it for in a minute. But going back to that tour, it's in Rwanda when they had that. Either the Terraman family in Rwanda, or they had some civil disturbances or something. He went actually, and he's auctioned off his bicycles and his race clothing and all sorts. He got a lot of money and sent it out there to this either the famine or the civil war. I forget which it was at the time, but quite an amazing gesture, just off the cuff like that. So I suppose that's right. And he has been a few problems too that we've had within the sport, which is now seems to be well and truly or nearly stamped out. And I think he was unfairly treated at the time, maybe, but he's still not lost the that sort of. The public just still love him for some particular reason, and I think today, whatever happens, Sean, I don't know what you think, whether he wins there or not, but again, he's stamping himself out there as the crowd's favourite.
Yes, well, I think his style of riding, that's what's made him, a big favourite for the public, and he have a huge following, as we said earlier. In his early days, a lot of us were criticising him because the way he was riding, going for the mountain classement right from the beginning, the third and fourth category climbs, which were, not really any need for that, because he was winning the mountain classement with, a huge number of points. But I think because of that reason, he's created a huge following in France.
The US Postal trying to catch that breakaway group, which includes Richard Virenque, 4 times a winner of the polka dot jersey in the Tour de France, and he did on the trot, 94, 95, 96 and 97, taking over from those great climbers, people like Claudio Chiappucci, Tony Rominger. I mean, Chiappucci was also a character. Oh, like my mistake, he also won in 99, so that's in fact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the only man in there that broke him up was a fellow called Rinero. In fact, Rinero was the man who, on the last year, I think it was, on the Étape de Tour, was technically, inverted commas, the winner, because they do see us first across the line. Rinero was also a useful climber. He rode the Étape de Tour last year, was the fastest one there too. And then if we go on to 2000, we mentioned already before, Botero was the king of the mountains then, and Jalabert got it 2 years on the trot to round it off too. So we've got some interesting mountain climbers, of which Virenque and Botero are still riding in the race today.
Yeah, one of the things that Virenque brought to the table in all of these years when he's winning is, I think he was the only Frenchman to be on the podium in Paris for any great honor, for the top 3 places or the green or yellow jersey. So he really has carried the French flag for a long time, and I think the French people will never forget that. And I liken it a little bit to the Italian feeling for Pantani. The crowds love Pantani. They sing about him, they talk about him, they wish him well, no matter what he's doing. It's not based any longer on his performance. It's now based on their affection for him. And I think Virenque falls into that same category with the crowd, although Virenque still clearly has results.
And he finished in the Tour de France in 3rd spot in 1996. He finished in the Tour de France in 2nd spot in 1997. So he's been up there on the podium, not only for his climbing, but also his ability to stay the distance and stay, particularly through the time trials, which is never his favourite sport anyway. And so Virenque out there with his group, and Bettini on the front still. He seems to be doing an enormous amount of work, does Bettini, but I do remember on the few occasions when I managed to get in a break when I was road racing, being 6'4" in those days, up to puncture, I'd get behind folks like Bettini, and I got no shelter at all. So poor old Aldag at the moment is having a hell of a lot of work to do, because he's over 6 foot. What's the problem here, Sean?
A puncture for Oscar Ferreira, which is,
his legs or his bike wheel?
No, his front puncture seems to be, he's still in there on that bunch, which, proves he's climbing quite well, because as we've seen earlier on today, a lot of the sprinters in difficulty, a lot of them have abandoned already, Kirsipu, Petacchi, and a lot of them out the rear of this bunch. So, Freire is still there, but we haven't seen much of him in the early part of this tour. His sprinting has been quite poor and not really in the reckoning for, the quality that Freire has got.
That's why I was a bit naughty and joking about how his legs have gone round his bicycle wheel, because he hadn't, except for 2nd place, he hasn't really done what we're expecting to do. But do you think that maybe he wants to get some miles in his legs, and the further it goes, and people like Petacchi going out, Kirsipu going out, will that give him more chance of getting a stage success?
It certainly will, but maybe he's going to become a climber now, because his way he's getting along here. But it will definitely give a chance, because with Petacchi get gone, it will give confidence to a lot of the sprinters that are left, let's say, because with Petacchi he was so impressive. He was just unbeaten when he got to the finish with the lead, with the main bunch. So Freire, it's looking good. If he's getting over the mountains like this, he's going to be no problems over the next number of days. So hopefully we will see him in the sprints after the mountains.
And also to think that Robin McEwen can get over the mountains too. So the situation could be changed for our very eyes, and at least Baden Cook could be in green at the end of the day anyway. And we're going back to look at the breakaway information from Mike.
Well, David, you can see that the facts of the breakaway show that suddenly the gap between the leaders and the peloton has shot up to 9 minutes 15. That was primarily, look at these, row your boat. The sudden increase in the gap there between the leaders and the peloton was because, as we were explaining a little later, earlier on, David, the leaders got through that level crossing and then the peloton got stopped. So it's worked in favour of the 4 leaders, 9 minutes 15, but of course they're now getting quite close to the really crucial part of this stage, this first category climb of the Col de la Ramaz.
And there it is, well, one of the climbs in the background there. And that row your boat there, and also going back to that problem with the level crossing, doesn't often happen in the Tour de France. Normally what happened if a breakaway group, as they might explain by my colleagues here, gets stopped, then they restart it with the clock running. But often that takes the sting out of any breakaway, but they had this time the good fortune to get away before it happened. And that row your boat, let me just go off a bit of a tangent here, that we met up the other day, Sean and myself, with the great Rudy Aldag, and he was a great 6-day racer, and we've got the heart monitor coming, but I'll go back to the Aldag story as Mike takes you through the thump, Mike.
Yeah, Rolf da Cruz, this is Carlos da Cruz, and he's at 89% of his maximum at the moment. That means he is really working very, very hard, and if he's doing that at this stage of the race, David, I wonder where he's going to be when we get higher up the slopes of that big climb.
We shall wait and see then to see. It's getting very close to the red at the moment, isn't it? How long can you have it up there though, Sean? Because we've got that red thing at the top, and a lot of them are getting close to that. If you go into the red, do something like that we saw sort of peel off and disappear in the ditch and end up in hospital. How do you get through the red, or can you, when you get to it, you know that's enough and your legs suddenly go? What do? Do you have to keep below it?
Yes, well, normally you try and keep below it, but most of the time it's not a problem to keep below it, because to get into the red is not easy in the end of a stage like this. So, you know, the riders would be often they'd be in that situation where they can really go that hard at the end of a stage that they can go into the red. It's really in the time trials, individual time trials or team time trials, where you start off and do maybe 40-50 kilometers. That's where you can go maybe into the red too early and pay for it in a very quick time. So I don't think, you know, the riders will have that problem in the final climb.
We have at the end of the race the Col de Lyon will come along, and they say who was the combative rider, who was the man who really enlivened the race all the way through. They're going to have a difficult job, I think, today, because we saw how Virenque went up to the breakaway group, which was started by young Klein, who's now been out the back, quickly joined by the other 3 on the left-hand side you see here. But for me, I don't know, Sean, we've still got some way to go towards the end. Bettini might get qualifying unless something happens to know on it, but for me, it's Aldag. This big guy is going over these climbs, he's still contributing, and lying ahead of us is his thumping great first category climb, and he's still contributing. He's not sitting on the wheels. You and I have seen blokes saying, okay, I'll stay there, I'll get towed along, and he's still getting stuck in. Would you put him, you know, man of the match?
Well, I think the credit had a co-rider, Benoit Poivet. He was the guy who attacked first with Klein in his wheel, if I remember. So yeah, they went up the road together. With Bettini was also there right from the beginning, and he is putting in quite a good effort as well. I don't see him, I don't think he's doing any more than Aldag. So I think he will have the advantage, because I think he was a guy who attacked right when John Marie dropped the flag for the official start.
But Aldag had to come across to them.
Yes, well, I don't know what way the commissars will look at it. It's the first guy to form the break, or to make the break happen. They might consider him as the most aggressive rider.
Christy has something to say about this. She's a great telecom fan anyway. You may be a bit vast.
Well, I was just watching the sort of dynamic of this group. The turns at the front are getting shorter and shorter, but I don't know what Virenque just said to Aldag, but it made him laugh. So they're still smiling at this point. I mean, apparently, they're still able to think. And you get to a point on your bike where you can't communicate anymore. It's just too difficult. And I really don't. I guess they would be speaking French. I would assume. But nobody's actually talking to Bettini. It was mainly just those three at the back there.
45 kilometres to go. The gap is at
8:35.
8:35. My goodness. Well then, this is getting rather interesting because looking at the actual list of their 45 Ks to go, going through Virenque, and then they get towards the sprint at Mussy, and that sprint really is the start of the climb, and that was with 37 kilometres to go. It's a long climb up towards the top of the first category climb. In fact, it's 14 kilometres of climbing, so they're getting very close to that sprint in Mussy. When you see that go through, as they're here going through the Virenque, that's with 184 kilometres under their belt. They've just got this little bit now, which is, by the way, it's still not flat. It's dragging very slowly. Our cameras don't give the impression, but you can almost see from the legs the way they're having to pedal. They're not whizzing it round very easily. They're having to just pedal at a certain space. But Sean, just speculate. Is it possible then, with this sort of gap, bearing in mind we're just getting to the foot of that climb, that they can, well, certainly they'll stay away to the foot of the climb. Can they get over before they get caught?
Well,
8 minutes in
difficult
14 kilometres, eh?
Yes, well, Virenque, of course, we all know, he can climb very well, and at times he can throw in a fabulous performance. And so depending on what he has got left in the legs, and if he still have got a lot left, he can climb very well and lose little time to the bunch. So we'll have to see how he feels and how much he has left in the tank, I suppose. Also Bettini, if Bettini can be helpful to him on the first number of kilometres in the climb, so all of those things have to be considered. And if you have all these things going from, well, Virenque could be difficult, because if he gets at the top of the climb with a number of minutes ahead, well then he can descend so fast. And there's the other the Côte de Getz, which is not a major climb, a third category. If he gets to there with 3 minutes at the top of Col de Ramas, it will be difficult for them to pull him back.
Thank you very much, Sean. We're getting the serious stuff of racing, and Christie's suddenly gone crimson and leapt up here, and her heart monitor's gone right through the roof, because Pataki has entered the commentary box here, and our friends from Rai, David Cassini and his commentator friend, are now talking to Pataki out there on the airways to the Italian audience, and she's going, I hope, to be able to have a chance to have a quick chat with him when he comes away. Mind you, when she was talking to him the other day, she had Dario Cioni with her. Dario Cioni being an English resident and speaks super. In fact, she's now going to she's grovelling below my legs and touching my ankles now. Oh, I've got a sharp smack, because she's going to take her camera to get pictures for the Australian magazine to which she contributes the pictures of the tour. Right, the race is going on seriously out here, and great to see this man Pataki coming into the commentary box and to join our friends from the Italian television coverage. And what a great shot we had there of the US Postals. Sean, I won't say they've been to panic, but they're really starting to motor now.
Well, I think, yes, from this moment on, they're going to start, turning it up a bit. But I think the US Postals still are not in any problem, because looking at them on the front there, they seem to be just, keeping to a set pace, and allow these guys to have the advantage which they have calculated they can control comfortably. And I think they will start turning it up a bit as we get to this final climb, the Col de Ramas, because a lot of riders will be trying to move up, and they will up the pace just to keep Lance and all the team in the good position. And by doing that, you have a lot of riders from the same team in the front of the bunch.
Cameron having a great time showing the shots of that breakaway group, with 42 kilometres to go towards the finish of this race. Just a few kilometres down the road, it'll start to go up to the final climb of the day, the first category climb of the Col de Ramas. A nasty little climb which has only been covered once before in the Tour de France, and that one is 1,619 metres above sea level. They're coming through Vauzon-Salaz, just a few kilometres back down the road, where it's 602 metres above sea level. final. So the actual climb will be 1,000 metres. That's 3,000 feet in English money, and that will be the sort of climb that lies ahead of them. You can look there in the distance at the mountains, and they can see them too as they go toward them. And yesterday, as we drove from the finish at Lyon to our hotel at Les Jettes, we were driving along, and then we arrived, and I looked up as we were getting closer, and it was getting towards the evening, and up there above these mountains you see here, which were just outlined, those little grey craggy cracks in the distance, there was the moon, not the full moon, well, the big round one, but it was just a little bit misty. And I thought, is this going to be the day? We know that Armstrong went onto the moon many years ago. Is it today then, as they go up there, that Armstrong will take the yellow jersey? It is on the shoulders of his teammate Victor Peña, who has a 1 second lead over Armstrong on the general classification. But they've got to go some, because Bettini, who's been very active ever since we started the race, started this morning 1 minute 39 seconds down on Victor Peña, and Virenque, his teammate who joined that breakaway group, 1 minute 52 seconds down, and somehow they're beginning to congeal at the front again. Sean, they've got a lot of work to do on that final climb, eh?
Yes, they certainly have, because it looked like the US were going to, start going a bit faster, but we see the riders behind them here, the way they're coming up near the front. It proves that that the US postal team are not really going that fast, because that is the real sign when you see riders, as we see here, Bogart coming up, moving up on the outside and on either side. So, I don't know what exactly the tactic of the US postals. Maybe they're just going to, allow that gap to hold as it is, and go into the last climb around the 8-9 minutes behind the breakaway group of the 4 leaders.
The Dutch don't have any really big climbers with them today in this race. They've lost the team from Rabobank. They lost Leipheimer on day 1 when he crashed. He was going to be the man, the ex-US postal rider, who was going to perform well in the mountains. So it's going to be down to people like Bogart, who won that stage, into La Plagne last year to do something. Maybe today we shall wait and see. Yesterday, after we finished the stage into Lyon, it was a great pleasure to meet up with the Fedor Den Hertog. And most of you scratch your head and say, who was that? It wasn't Hedgehog, Fedor Den Hertog. He was winner of the milk race many years ago, very elegant stylist on the bike. He then went to be a pro, but he didn't quite perform on the pro ranks, that quantum leap from the amateurs in those days to the pro, but the Dutch dominated the milk race for some years after the Russians had been dominating it. But right now the Dutch are not having things all their own way, and the orange jersey we're going to see will not be those from Holland, I think, but that man Mayo, Sean, who has already done a great ride in the Dauphiné. And do you think it's down to Mayo today, and what's he done in past on this particular part of the course?
Well, we have seen him in the Dauphiné. He was very impressive on the climbs, and he looked like he had Armstrong in problems on a lot of the climbs. But you just never know with Armstrong, because we see him some years ago in the stage to Alpe d'Huez, where he was bluffing a lot, and he bluffed the Telecom team, and they started riding with Ulrich at that time. And when he got to Alpe d'Huez, he just clipped off from the bottom of the climb. He made one attack. He looked around at Ulrich, looked him straight in the face actually, and then just turned up the pace a bit higher, and away he went. So it's just difficult to know with Lance how he's what way he's thinking. But Mayo, he was very strong in the Dauphiné, very impressive this year, one of his best years. He won a lot of races, climbing very strong, and he said that, yes, I'm going to cause problems for Lance in the mountain stages.
And what about David Miller?
Well, Miller, he sounds very confident, and he said that he's not afraid of the mountains this year at all. He said, after my performance in the Dauphiné, and we see him there. There was a number of days ago when it went up a bit in the last 15-20 Ks. He attacked very, very strongly with Bettini. Actually, was another one was with him. So he was very impressive when he can do that. So, I think he has a lot more in the tank than he has shown to us over the last number of years, and hopefully he will climb this year, because this is the time he needs to start doing it in a tour. He needs to be able to climb with the best, because in the time trial, as we know, there's no problems, and the flat stages he can defend himself without any problems. It's just the mountains that he has to prove.
David Miller came into stage today 2 minutes down on the yellow jersey. So what will David's tactics be? Just to watch the US Postals and move up as riders come flying back? Sean, how would you see David's action today on that climb? Do bear in mind that when we get to the top of the climb, you know yet, there's no fat lady singing here at the finish, but they go down into the valley, then up to Lachette, the third cat climb before we try go into the finish of the race overall. But there's only 22 kilometres off the top. Where would he sit and what would he do?
Well, I think on the climb he just have to stay with the other big hitters, the Belochis, the Armstrongs, the Ulrichs, and the position he's in general, 2 minutes down on the general classement. It's a perfect position, and just follow the rest and see what way he feels on the climb. And if he's feeling really good, well then he can go in the attack on the first category climb, or later on as well. The other climb, Côte de Getz, he could attack there, and the stage win is a very important one today, one of the most important stages of the tour, mountain stages, and take some time also for the general classement. So it's all to play for today, and also tomorrow, like the finish to Alpe d'Huez also, that's a very important one. So if the feeling is good and he can stay with the lead as well, there's a lot of things he can do in the next today and tomorrow, and later in the Pyrenees as well, if he's climbing as good as the main contenders for the general classement.
You're looking now at the tour coming out of the flattest stage we've had so far. We first came into the mountains since the tour started in 1903, when in 1905 the first mountain stage was over the Ballon d'Alsace. They reduced the length of the stages and increased the number of them, and then eventually by 1910 they went over the first big mountain climb, and in fact it was included then, and it's part of the mountains which they call the Circle of Death. Well, that's not today. This is the Alps. The Pyrenees will come towards the back end of the race, and you've been having that quick poll to see will the race be decided in the Alps or the Pyrenees, and Henri de Grand's assistant Alphonse Staines had suggested taking the tour over the Pyrenees in 1906, but it wasn't until 1910 that they did it. And in fact, when he went out there first of all to go just before 1910, he went out, and 4 kilometres from the top of the Col de Tourmalet, a blizzard forced him to stop and abandon his car, and he slogged 12 kilometres down the snowbound slopes midnight at night, and he sent back a telegram to Henri de Grand. He said, "I've crossed the Tourmalet on foot by night, road passable for vehicles, no snow," lying through his teeth, but he suggested the race could go over there. That's what's happened. It will be in the Tour when we get down to the Pyrenees, but we're in the Alps here. Many of you taking part in our quick poll will have had an opportunity to cast your votes on will it be the decisive days in the Tour or will it be in the Pyrenees. And do bear in mind, those who are voting, that tomorrow we go up the Alpe d'Huez, which in 1952, when it was first included, but was won by no other than the great Fausto Coppi, and he went on to win the Tour de France in 1952, having won the stage up the Alpe d'Huez. Can history repeat itself? Mike, are we like to see the results of the quick poll before we go off air today?
I would hope so, David. Yes, in our post live after you've finished, the lines, as it were, are still open on www.eurosport.com. So I don't know whether we'll get one more provisional in before you finish your live coverage, David, but we'll certainly have the result in our post-live programme.
Thank you for that, Mike. And the race is now hotting up, and they're going here, as you can see, with the enthusiasm of the crowd ringing round our ears. We haven't had much chance now to go through the emails, and we won't have much chance tomorrow because we've got a short, sharp stage up the Alpe d'Huez, and we're going through the sprint, a so-called sprint, on this position of the course. That they've gone through the sprint. It's with 37 kilometres to go towards the finish of the stage today. Any message from you, Mike, because we're hotting the thing up now, and I fear that you haven't had much to say recently. Oh, we're going to a bit of a break, I think. Oh, in fact, the facts are coming up on our screen of the sprint.
Well, David, if you've got a chance with the 4 leaders just rolling through the sprint there, and they're about to start tackling the climb. I've just got that little story to tell you, it won't take too long, that I mentioned about Phil. Now that you've got Christy sitting next to you, she might like to listen to this, because this is the experience of somebody called Neil Penfold from Fareham. So I'll just quickly get through. Neil tells us via email...
Phil, Mike,
yes.
Mike, hold
she
it
ain't
for 5
sitting.
minutes, because she's just been out there taking photographs of Pataki, you see. So,
right, well, let me know when she gets...
just a moment.
Let me know when she gets back, then, and we'll do it then, OK?
I don't know if she'll ever come back, Mike.
Good job she didn't hear that. Well, we get sort of, it's like, at school when you get to the last day in term. It's going very serious from now on, Ian, but we have been on air for the last 6 hours, or nearly 6 hours, so do bear with us, dear viewer, as the race is getting very serious, and we've got a bit of a profile coming from Mike Smith.
Yes, David, and this is the big one. It's the first of the first category climbs. You have been talking a lot about it today, and I'm not surprised. Nearly 14.5 kilometres long. Average inclination is 6.9. Let's call it 7%, shall we? Which is pretty steep for such a long climb. And there you can see, and where it goes deep red, about 2/3 of the way through, from kilometre 9 to kilometre 10 of the 14.5, that's the steepest part. It's about 1 in 10. It's slightly steeper than 1 in 10. The middle section is very tough indeed, and the last little blip to the top as well is also quite hard. This is really going to test these 4 leaders now, and I rather suspect if we get any signs, any shots from the cameramen at the back of the peloton, David, we're going to see them coming out of the back like flies.
Well, it's a bit more colourful than my usual iced lollies that I've seen in the shots, but I suppose you drew another line. The average climb through there would look a bit like a Battenberg cake, but that's the new innovation that we've got on Eurosport for you this year, of the way in which we're giving you some colour references of the climbs that they're going on today. But this man Bettini on the front, looking, I think, possibly, Sean, what about the chance? We were talking about the green jersey. Can he survive here? Can he still come over the top and down the other side of this climb? And can he finish up there? Because looking at the points competition, as they come through here, there's going to be points at the end in the green jersey competition, not as much as we normally get in the on the flatter stages. And also do bear in mind there are those bonuses of 20, 12 and 8 as well. So it does mean that somehow Bettini's got a chance of a go at both sides of it, and are the people behind, though, not so concerned about today, but saying, OK, we'll get it all back on the Alpe d'Huez tomorrow? But this seems, look at this, Sean, hey?
Well, I think the question of Bettini, I don't think the guys like McEwen are going to be too worried about him for the moment. But if he does this again on another day or another 2 occasions, well, then he will take a lot of points if he stays away. But the question is, can they stay away today? It's going to be, it's not going to be easy, because one of them is going to have to ride, and I think Bettini will do a lot of riding on the last climb for Virenque. But the gap is still 8:15 inside the 35k, so a comfortable gap all the time.
David, for those who think that maybe the first mountain stage will give you the clue as to who's going to win, we've just gone back a few years, pre the Lance Armstrong era, if I can call it that, to show you just where the eventual Tour winners came in the first mountain stage of a Tour de France. For instance, going back to 1998, the year that Pantani won, well, he did succeed in winning the first mountain stage, and Jan Ullrich in 97, well, he also did, but after that, well, Miguel Indurain only did it once. Bjarne Riis had a second place, Indurain had a second, a fourth, a seventh, a second. Not often does the eventual winner of the Tour come first in the first mountain stage. Quite often he keeps his powder dry for a little bit later. But let's just go to Lance Armstrong's first mountain stage and look at that for consistency. The 4 years in which he has won in the first mountain stage of the Tour, he's finished first, second, from the bottom upwards, first and first. Now that is impressive. And
going into the climbs which lie ahead of them, there's not only at stake the victory for today, it's also the King of the Mountains jersey, because we've got a first climb coming up in front of us, as the two big guys in the race are beginning to lose contact with the two riders from the Quick-Step Daviton team. And Virenque got up to that break, and now he's with Bettini on this long gradual climb, and they've got rid of the other two guys now. So this must be making the Belgians be rather happy, the Belgian supporters watching this thing back in their cafes and at home. And Virenque just showing what he knows best of all, and at long last now he's certainly sharing the load with the Bettini. But is this the time now for Virenque really to get stuck in?
Well, it's the time for both of them to really get stuck in, and they have to start, giving it almost 100%, from here on in, because when the bunch arrives, there's going to be a lot of action in the bunch. I think when they arrive, the first category climb of the tour, the first one. So I feel there will be a lot of attacks, and they have to go for it from here, because this is the place where you can hold on to your lead and not lose much to the bunch. So it's all to play for. This is where it has to be done, and you have to give it close to 100% here, depending on what both of them have got left. If Bettini can keep on riding with Virenque, a great help for Virenque, because he has somebody just to come over him, share the pace setting, and it means a lot. So it depends on what both of them have left in the tanks at this moment.
And Virenque, then, the crowd here can see him on the screen. He won the last time we came into Morzine in the year 2000, and they're holding their breath as they start that climb. The other interesting thing too is that we saw a bit back the polka dot jersey. He's now completely lost that. The next climb, the first category climb, will give points 30, 26, 22, 18 and so on down there. And if they keep up this rate of knots, I would think that a fair chance that Bettini will get himself either 30 or 26 points, and Mike Smith will give us the complete rundown on that situation over the top. But certainly it looks like Bettini's riding himself into the polka dot jersey. Mike, you've been keeping the facts and figures back there. I've done it at the back of an envelope. I think it's blown out the window now. Is that looking about right for Bettini for the King of the Mountains jersey?
Well, yes, it is, unless of course these two guys who are in the same team have some kind of game plan for Bettini to help Virenque up the lower slopes, and for Virenque to launch a victory charge perhaps over the top. Somebody asked me yesterday who I thought I would win this stage. I'm not being clever here, believe me. Somebody in the newsroom said, who's going to win the first mountain stage? And I said, watch Virenque. He won at Morzine last time, and I've been rooting for him, although I'm not a particular Virenque supporter. I've been willing him to win, so to speak, today, simply because I tipped him yesterday. If he were to launch attack by agreement with his teammate Bettini over the top, he would then take the maximum points, and remember there's just that one little third category climb at Les Jettes, so that could actually put Virenque into the King of the Mountains jersey. It's all in the melting pot.
Yes, there are 10 points for the first man over the top of the third category climb, 20 points for 30 points for the first, and then 26 behind that. Depends, of course, if Bettini can stay with him. We'll have to wait and see, and the figures will come up on our screen for you back at home to see the situation as we get further into the race. Christie's now come, having taken a happy snaps of Pataki. He looked quite happy though, although he must be unhappy not to finish, as it looks like Kenya is starting to drive at the front, and one or two of the riders are coming off the back. So a quick update from Christie, who spent the night before last interviewing Pataki, and now she's well, the mascara is still slightly smudged with the tears when he retired, but any news?
Yeah, there are a couple of surprising things. One is that what he's saying is it was a combination of his head and his and just a general feeling. It wasn't that he had bad legs today, or in this tour at all. And yesterday we saw him come across the line. He was shaking his head, and I thought he looked a little bit disappointed. And what it was is he was shaking his head in disbelief, because he couldn't believe he won the stage yesterday and how strong he felt at the final. But today his head wasn't in it. He knew he was going backwards, and he just said, I always had this fear that I didn't come to the Tour de France with the same condition I did at the Giro and the mountains. It just seemed pointless to him to drive himself into the ground before stopping, because what he did in the Giro was he rode himself into really sort of a bad situation. And on the last day when he didn't make the time cut, he did so much damage on that day, and he's not prepared to do that kind of damage again here at the Tour. And now he'll take some time off, he'll reconsider his program, and he'll look into doing the Vuelta. But he's not prepared to say 100% he'll do the Vuelta today.
I'm not surprised by that. And Sean, here is an expert, ladies and gentlemen, all three of you. You can't have three, ladies and gentlemen, can you? that Sean was the one who remarked earlier on about going back to team car, and Volpi made him go on, and suddenly started to go again. And at the moment he's actually speaking on the French station over there. Sean, it just shows you how much, and I'd love your comments upon this, about the brain driving the body.
Well, yes, it's, you know, depending on what the problem is. First of all, you know, we have to know what's the problem, because if his head is not right and he's winning in a Tour of France, you know, you'd start to ask questions, because, you know, the morale should be really good. You should be on top of the world. You know, you should be happy about the situation. I don't know what the problem is, and that's, you know, there's a question mark there. Why is he not focused anymore? Because in the mountains, you know, I think he's capable of getting over the mountains, because if you're so strong on the sprint, well, then you can climb the mountains. I know he's never going to be in the leading group, but still for the Gruppetto he should be able to do that. So, you know, there's a question out there, what is the problem? And Ferretti did say that earlier on. He was saying that he's not right in the head. What exactly the problem is, I don't know.
And talking about in the head, here is Aldag, a big guy too, who's hauled his big body over the slope so far, got dropped just a minute ago, and he's fighting his way back again. The last person you'd think would be in a break like this and surviving to here, but that's in the head, must be, eh, Sean?
Well, it depends, you know, how fast Virenque is going. It's difficult for us to say, even for, as you say, we're specialists here. I don't think anybody can say are specialists. Even the guys out here on the road can't say that, because you never know how strong a guy is going to be on a day. You just try and calculate to your best knowledge, and hopefully you're right.
One by one they're flying out the back as we're tackling this climb, and there at the back you can see, not surprisingly, the white, green, yellow and green stripes of the National Championship jersey, the Commonwealth Games champion, and past yellow jersey in the Tour de France, and took the green jersey to short to Stuart O'Grady. He did a great ride yesterday, got swallowed up by the bunch so close, and here now suddenly Bettini is dropping back, and up the front goes Virenque, and glued to his wheel is Aldag. Would you believe it? Mike, off you go.
Yeah,
Payne on difficulty author. Sorry, Mike.
It's okay.
Payne, as they say, he's difficulty in the bunch there at the moment to follow the pace of the peloton.
Yeah, well, he's been out in front for a long, long time, Bettini, of course, but I'm still surprised that he's gone away. But you saw there on the profile just how far up the climb we've got, so he's still got a long, long way now to suffer, as it were, on his own. Can he do what Rolf Aldag's just done and get back up to Virenque?
We shall see. And so if Peña's in trouble, Sean, what's the sort of feeling back there? I know you're listening to Radio Tour, but that's just the information from there.
Yes, surprising to hear that he's in trouble, because he was setting the pace, but maybe he knew that, and that's why he set the pace early, because he just felt he didn't have the legs, and he just said to the other guys, look, I'm not good enough today, I will try and do what I can now, and you know, you do the rest later.
Mike, heart rate,
yeah,
the Cruz.
Well, my heart's beating a bit fast now, David, as the action is really hotting up there, and so too are all the heartbeats, I'm sure, in the peloton. Carlos de Cruz is way over 90% of his maximum now on the low slopes of this climb. The tension is really hotting up out there as we look at Virenque, 5 times a former winner of the King of the Mountains competition, and Rolf Aldag, I must say, David, look at this, he's actually dropped Virenque. This is unbelievable.
The people in the finishing straight here looking at an enormous big screen, and almost they can't believe that the man who won the stage here 2000 is being caught and dropped by Aldag. That shows supreme determination, or calculating, I don't know, but it's a long drag here, Sean. You're shaking your head then. What is it?
Well, I don't think Virenque is in the best of his shape, because you know, Aldag, you know, we know he can shoulder on there, but on a climb, like, he's never been you know, really that impressive on a climb, and I think it proves that, you know, Virenque is not really going well. I could be proved wrong, but I don't think Virenque is, you know, climbing to anything like we've seen him in the past, because otherwise I don't think he should be dropped by Aldag.
You're smiling because of the pink jersey out the front there, Christy.
Yeah, it's nice to see one of the telecom guys at the front. They haven't had a huge tour so far. They haven't been in the results. So it's really nice to see them having a go, and having a go that is very impressive. Similar to...
Hey, look at that.
He looks like he's suffering. He doesn't look like he's a very happy person at the moment.
Well, is it that he's suffering, or is it just concentration? It's hard to know. Maybe it's just full concentration, full focus. Maybe it's that.
That's very possible. I mean, he certainly has the ability to focus. There's no question about that.
We've been through this before with him, haven't we? We've been boxing over, thinking he's absolutely eyeballs out, and then suddenly he starts going.
Yeah, on the Alpe d'Huez stage 3 years ago, yeah, he did his poker thing where he sort of feigned that he was struggling, and then attacked with such speed that it just blew everybody away, and nobody could even react to the attack. And took 3 minutes on the climb to Ulrich, who was chasing in earnest, which is a bit scary. But about Virenque and Bettini and the jerseys, I think the objective, and this is my speculation, is that Bettini's going to go for the green jersey in Paris, Virenque for the polka dot jersey, and that would be a huge team objective for the Quick Step boys to try to do both of those things. But as we saw with Jalabert in the last 2 years, they're sort of employing the same tactic: get out the front, scoop up as much as you can before the legs start to feel it. And I think Virenque is going pretty well here, considering that he did hurt his back in that crash on the first day, and he's come back. And years ago there was a quote when he was still on Festina from him saying, I just want to get the jersey as early as possible so people will recognize it's me.
And of course he's in different colours now, but the words going out to the people on the course, they've got their radios going. Some of them have got the satellite dishes picking up the pictures that you're seeing too as well. He's clawing his way back up to Rolf Aldag now, this big powerhouse from the telecom team. Obviously, Aldag went off this morning for particular reasons, Sean, but I think this may be taking the pressure off Botero, for instance, because US Postals are doing all the work. The yellow jerseys got shot out, and the telecoms are just sitting there at the moment, as it appears are the riders from Bianchi and Beyonce.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the telecom doesn't have really any need to do anything at this point. I mean, Aldag is just having such an incredible day, and now at least there's only one of them who's going to be exhausted.
Your comment, Sean?
Well, I don't think, it wouldn't have changed anything for the telecoms with Aldag up the road. I think they would just have followed for today. They wouldn't have, been doing any of the work, as we see our yellow jersey, in trouble here. And the reason for setting the pace was that, he wasn't he wasn't on a good day. He felt it, and he did what he could when he was in the bunch.
And also we saw him going back, a remarkable sight for a man in the yellow jersey, fetching and carrying the bottles too, wasn't he? He was working as a domestique. Yes. That's something you see normally.
Yes, well, it was something different, and something that we were asking questions about. I think he's quite happy with his performance in this tour, having the yellow jersey for a number of days, being the first Colombian to do that. So he's had a good tour, up till now. So from here on in, I think he's going to be, just a full-time helper to Armstrong.
One by one, they're coming back from the front group. We just saw Cedric Vasseur from the Cofidis team, and also Camesso, who's a short, sharp, little punchy sprinter. Although he has lost a lot of weight and has been climbing the mountains when we've seen him earlier on this season. So this is a little group forming at the back, just trotting up toward the top. When they get over the top, it is 22 kilometres to the finish, down and then back up the other side too as well. And
there went Pedrogi. I imagine that ride he had the other day when he was in the break and doing so much work is probably paying out on him at the moment.
And Rochard also is having trouble. It's an amazing collection of riders we've got here at the back, whilst the main peloton, what's left of it at the front, still leaving the US Postal to do the work, and they're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 riders at the moment. Armstrong, yes, he's lying in third position, and there's still two of them left there. Looks like Hincapie and Ekimov and Landis are still there to give him some support, and Ribeiro too possibly. It's a big George Hincapie who's driving this one forward, and there Lance Armstrong, looking very slim round the cheeks, Sean, because he always loses a bit of weight in the Tour de France, but he looks much more fine down than I've seen him at the start of the tours in the past.
Yes, he actually does look much leaner, especially on the face. He looks quite hungry looking, and is that a good thing? Normally, yes, for a 2 you have to be really down to your minimum racing weight. But sometimes guys suffer a bit in the first number of days in the tour and lose a bit extra, and sometimes that might not be the best thing. If you're going under your racing weight, you can lose strength, and as the race go on, you can pay that price.
Looking back, more statistics from Mike Smith in Paris. 8 kilometres to go.
This is 8.6k to go, David, and if you look at the little blue line there, you'll see that we're fractionally actually over halfway up this climb. But, and here's the crunch for Rolf Aldag now, we're just about entering the steepest part of the climb, the midsection of this climb, and this is where Rolf Aldag may well pay for that earlier effort. Virenque will love it, I should think, as much as you can love climbing up steaming big mountains like this. But this is going to be a really testing part of this climb, the next 3 to 4 kilometres.
Sean, what's the latest break back to the group here with Armstrong and the US Postals? Armstrong lying in 3rd spot here. As we ask, up it comes. You pressed the button rather quickly there, Sean. 5:50. I didn't know you were that good at doing the computer. 5:55.
Well, actually, I was going to take a guess on it. The last time check we got was around the 6:30, but I was saying just at the 6 minutes.
And Axel Merckx drifting off the pace too, so many riders. And quite early, I mean, the Tour de France, this is the first day in the real mountains, and 1 or 2 of them already finding it heavy weather. The speed of this race so far, coming into today's stage, just imagine this, you couch potatoes back in Great Britain, if you just finished mowing the lawn and you're feeling a bit miffed and you've done nothing much during the week except to go to and from work, that we've actually covered these bike rides on the screen, as at this morning, 1,442 kilometres. That's about 600 miles, and that's in 6 days. They've averaged 100 miles a day, and listen to this, the average speed has been 45.203 kilometres an hour. That's about 28 miles an hour for 600 miles since they set off from Paris. The Saturday a week ago was just a short, sharp prologue time trial, but imagine after that averaging over 27 miles an hour for the 600 miles they've done so far. And this is the first mountainous stage of the race, and although it's going much slower here, there's got to be a lot of tired legs as Virenque goes off yet again.
Speaking of Virenque and just watching him there with his shirt unzipped and whatnot, it just reminded me that he weighs about 54 kilos on a fat day, and the last couple of times that he won the polka dot jersey, he was standing in Paris at a 51 kilograms. I mean, that is so light, and when you compare him to Rolf Aldag, who must weigh in the 70s at minimum, it's just amazing to see Aldag even hanging on to his wheel at this point. I mean, even on a bad day, Richard Virenque is a great climber, and he's so light.
And there they go, it's coming back at him again. Would this be, Sean, would Virenque be pleased to see Aldag, or would he be worried to get this great big guy going up with him, and the gap's still over 5 minutes, or just concentrate on doing what he has to do?
Well, I think it's all a matter of, you've got the strength, and Aldag seems to, be getting on quite well here. He's hanging on to the wheel of Virenque. The question is, how fast is Virenque going? And that's something you cannot really calculate from here looking at our screens. As we see Big George, he's out there doing his job, and he's gone out the rear of the peloton. So the US Postal riders are doing what they have to do, and then they're peeling off, as we see 4 of them still in this in the front of the bunch. Also, over race radio, Carpets, the white jersey, also in difficulty.
Did you spot the Bianchi colours though, sitting just behind Lance Armstrong? There he was, Ulrich, watching every pedal rev. That looks very, to me, ominous for Lance, as he's got his trident changed to 100. The devil himself has changed his trident to 100. This is the centenary of the Tour de France. I think he's 100 years old too. He looks like it, a whiskered
and Simone in trouble.
Is he?
To follow the main pack.
And he needs to do something today, Simone, because he came into the race with not a... Oh dear.
So as you said, David, Ulrich is still very, he looks very comfortable there, following, and a lot of the favourites still in there. Here, as we see in there, Virenque was quite to the fore here, but most of the favourites still in this main group. As I said, Simone is the only real one for the general classement who we hear his difficulty as Virenque go in the attack.
What a phenomenal day for Telecom. Simone this morning was 3 minutes and 9 seconds down. He had to try and pull something back, either today or tomorrow on the Alpe d'Huez, and he's not going to do it the way he's going out the back. Will Iban Mayo in the orange jersey of the Escatel start to do something today? But it's the Telecom that are having a great day, and he just zooms past as this man, the winner of the Tour of Switzerland just recently, zooms off down the road, and the excitement mounting in our commentary point here. And Davide Casasani has just given his computer a drink. He's poured Coca-Cola over it, and it's got on the blink.
Well, that'll be sudden death for his computer, that's for sure. I wonder about the danger, how dangerous it is to arrive at the top of the mountain with Aldag and now possibly Virenque together, because Aldag is a fantastic descender, and I think he's a better descender than Virenque. So there is that little descent, and actually this stage finishes quite a lot on the downhill, doesn't it, Sean?
It goes down, then up into the Gets, and then down again. So that little blip, the little climb up there into the Gets, is only about 4 kilometres, maybe 3 kilometres, and the momentum might carry them out. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. As Virenque goes away, the last time checked, Sean, and your comments too about the number of riders still left in there, because it seems to be that peloton is quite sizable.
Yes, it is quite sizable. There's quite, well, all the favourites are in there except for Simone as the one who was in difficulty. But, Aldag is being dropped now by Virenque. But Virenque, what a ride by Virenque. He must be feeling very confident to attack so early, because, there's quite a number of kilometres to go to the top yet. But he's that style of rider. He's never afraid to attack. We've seen him on a few occasions.
Mike,
well, this is what I warned you about just a few minutes ago, that Virenque would probably fancy his chances on this steeper part of the climb, the midsection, and that's exactly what he's done. Rolf Aldag perhaps paying for that earlier attack when he first of all dropped Virenque. Very exciting this, David, and it could be that in Morzine, with Virenque chasing hard, it might be that Virenque is going to repeat the triumph that he had here 3 years ago.
Mike, we're sitting here, I don't know if it came over your headphones, the roar when Virenque went off like that, absolutely amazing, because they went rather sort of po-faced when Aldag went away, and Virenque looks like he's going through a bad patch. When Virenque took off again, the roar, all the windows who were vibrating with the crowd, they're not all French, by the way. There's a massive number. I can see just across from us here, there's a whole lot of Norwegians with their flags. I've heard some Americans in the background. We've seen flags of all nations here at the finishing point, and they've come from far and wide, but the French spectators outnumber by far the other spectators, and so Virenque, really the darling of the French, who mentioned so many times in the past, is now doing what he can to win this stage for the second time on the trot. Sean, very quickly going back and listening on the radio behind, we saw an orange jersey going off. Was that Mayo? Do we know who it was?
No, we didn't hear anything over race radio that Mayo was in attack, but it looked very much like him, as we see Simone here in difficulty, also Botero in difficulty to follow the Armstrong pack. So, some of the favourites starting to lose contact now with the main bunch. But when we did see that attack of Mayo, there was no reaction from the US posters, but that's their style of riding. They just keep on the train on the front and, don't suddenly accelerate after anybody. So, I wouldn't be too concerned yet that the US posters are in difficulty.
The reason that Simone is in black and white, he's riding that black and white bicycle specially produced by Cannondale for Simone in the mountain. This is the tough part that Mike Smith was talking about, which has been the Achilles heel, I suppose, if that's the word, for Aldag, who's not been able to follow Virenque on this part. And Simone on that special black bike, I'm sure it's made of maybe a bit of carbon fibre, but I just thought that the Cannondale people are often more prepared to use aluminium than carbon fibre. There's much discussion on it later on, but certainly they've gone in today and they've costed the team €3,000 to ride in black and white rather than their normal red colour. So they'll certainly change back tomorrow to stop any more fines being in there. And with Simone struggling at this climb, this first category climb, what is in stake for tomorrow when we go up that infamous Alpe d'Huez at the end of it all? And also looking at the way Virenque is going, this is one he really wants to win. Will that hurt him for tomorrow, the Alpe d'Huez? We've got 2 back-to-back stages, we've got 3 stages, another hard one on the Monday too as well. Bringing you live on Eurosport back in Paris, Mike Smith with all statistics and information and keeping the score of everything that's going on in the dungeons, the cool of our studios there. Sean Kelly with his expert analysis of the race, and we've had Christy Anderson, who's been out there at the start this morning to talk about the race, and also to have a word with Pataki. And if you only come on late into our programme, Pataki, who won 4 stages, has now retired from the race. He just didn't have it in his legs. As now Virenque, Platero is in trouble, and he really is in trouble. Rock. We all know this. This is not going to be good for a man who has actually, in the year 2000, taken the polka dot jersey in Paris. He's not going to go it this time round. And one by one, Raza dropping off. Sad sight to Sean.
Yes, again, Botero, I didn't have the confidence in him coming into a big tour. I think I mentioned on air, I don't reckon he's always going to have an off day, and some days he has these super days where he just goes away in the mountains, but other riders losing contact, Rebellin losing contact with a group of Armstrong, Garzelli can't follow, so a lot of the favourites starting to suffer at this moment.
Garzelli win up a couple of times of the Tour of Italy. We've just seen Simone win the Tour of Italy this year, and a couple of years ago he's been blown out too as well. It's all because of the work being put in by Virenque, who came across to a short breakaway group, and he climbs toward the top. I think what we'd like to do with 3 kilometres to go to the top, Sean, is just to go around exactly what happened throughout the whole of the race, because many people will be switching on at the back end now and might want to wonder how did Virenque get to where he is now.
Well, it's been a long day for Virenque. He's out there, from right from the beginning almost. There was a number of riders that went away: Aldag, Puevelt, Klein, Bettini, and then on the first climb of the day at it was at
Col de
Port, 56 kilometres. Virenque got away with one of the Manzana from Kelme, and then he came across on his own. He caught up to Klein and made his way across to the group. So he's been out there for a long time, and his breakaway companions, Aldag, Puevelt was there for a long time, Bettini, and of course now we see Virenque out there, just the only one out on his own. Bettini is being caught. Also Virenque, he went away very strong, but we see him there. He is only 100 metres, 80 metres ahead of the bunch some time ago there, and he seems to be starting to struggle as well. So Virenque, again, I think when Aldag went away early, he didn't get excited about it. He left him have his rope, as they say, take a couple of 100 metres, but took him back, and we see him now the way he's settled into the climb. He's still climbing very well there, 440 the gap back to the group Armstrong and the main bunch, and he's defending very well here.
Botero really in trouble, going back through the cars as Bettini's coming back through the main pack. One by one, they're just finding this climb, which is a long drag really up toward the top. It's 14.3 kilometres we've been seeing on that graph. Average is 6.9%. And a lot of riders are just realising that this, after a very fast start we've had to this race, is really causing a lot of trouble. But we also have to bear in mind, as Virenque gets towards the top of this climb, although it's 22 kilometres to finish, a little blip, third category climb. We're inside the last 25 kilometres, as the profile will be coming on Mike Smith in just a moment. But Virenque start this morning, 1 minute 52 seconds down. He is therefore still relatively yellow jersey on the road, Mike.
Yes, it is an interesting situation now, isn't it? And as you see, we're getting towards the higher part now. Only about 3 kilometres of the climb left for Richard
2.8 kilometres to the top, and we've been looking at the graphic showing a bit of yellow where he is now. Well, he is technically also in yellow. Overall race leader, the yellow jersey of Victor Peña. He slid off on this climb. He'd been working domestic, going backwards and forwards, collecting bottles for the interests of Lance Armstrong, who has had 4 Tour de France victories in succession, and this is the day when he's really got to show that he's hoping to stay in contention for that 5th jersey. But you were just making a note, Christy, that about Ulrich.
Yeah, when I spoke to Yogi Mueller this morning, the public relations officer for the U.S. Postal Team, I asked him if Harris was put in his position to get the yellow jersey, and Lance could make that happen, would he let him go? And he said, well, certainly if that was possible, but it would depend totally on what Ulrich was doing, because if Ulrich was in any way challenging the situation, no, they would control it 100% with Lance in the front and taking the biggest advantage he could possibly muster against Ulrich. But he didn't mention any other names. Ulrich is the only one U.S. Postal is concerned about. They're not worried about Baloki. They're not worried about, of course, all the people we've just seen go out the back, Simoni, Botera, no one. And I actually don't see Gazzelli in this bunch either.
No, he's gone out. And did you hear that on the headphones, Sean, about Dardy Gonzalez?
No, I just...
Gonzalez is in trouble too.
Yes, I see Aldag is still fighting on there. He's 55 seconds down on Virenque, and Armstrong is at 4:10 behind Virenque. So you know, Aldag is still battling on out there. He hasn't lost an awful lot to Virenque, so he's still giving it everything.
I can see a pink jersey, so Baloki Kusui there. But one rider we haven't heard going off the back, which we must marvel at. Hamilton must still be in there somewhere. Looks like a lot of orange jersey. We haven't heard about Mayo going out the back, and you're pointing, do you think that's him there?
That could be him. That very well could be him. I spoke to Sean Yates this morning about him in some detail, and they're really looking at today as sort of the litmus test, whether he makes it over the next stage, which is really going to be the cracker if you've got a broken bone and you're having to use your arms for leverage. Virenque has been looking after himself very well on this climb. He keeps drinking, he keeps eating. He seems to really be, you know, very clearly thinking about, you know, what it's going to take to win this stage.
Well, it's the return of the prodigal son, or probably like the hotel we stayed in a couple of nights ago. The Phoenix has now been set on fire yet again. I think that's something, a title of J.K. Rowley's a recent Harry Potter book has something to do with the return of the Phoenix, or something to do. My goodness, I think that Harry Potter's the wizard on this particular occasion, or is it Virenque that's the wizard? 2 kilometres to go toward the top, and certainly he would have that ambition to win again in Morzine, but he's going so stylishly up here. Sean, I mean, this is a beautiful rhythm he's setting. What do you think?
Yes, it looks a good rhythm. You know, he's holding off the bunch, as I said, around the 4:10 it was the last time check. So he's still going along at quite a good pace, and that's the question is, like, how much has he got? How much strength has he left after being out there all day? That is the big problem. And will he last that? But you know, he's only just inside the 2 kilometres to the top now. He is a good descent, and as we know, Virenque can descend very well. He will also know these roads here because he lives not too far away from here. I think he lives in Annemasse or that area. Near Switzerland. Yes. So he will definitely have went over these roads in training, so he will know them perfectly. He will be able to make a very good descent, and the Col he gets, like, if he gets, as I said earlier on, if he gets to that with 2.5-3 minutes, well, then I think he could pull off this stage.
Yes, Virenque's back in that group at the moment, but still pressing on here, getting toward the top of that climb, which very close indeed. Just speculating here, Sean, that he was 152 down, so he's still got a couple of minutes in hand. Could well go on. Let's say if he does take it towards the end. Look at where the US Postals are riding. Are they not bothered about him for the yellow jersey? Because they've technically lost it at the moment to this fellow here. If he got the yellow jersey as well on today's stage, is it a softer day for him? I didn't get the impression looking back there that they were overly worried about what was going up in front.
No, the US Postals are not going to be overly worried about Virenque, even if he stays away here, he takes the jersey. The main thing is, as I said earlier on, not to let him take it with a huge advantage, which could be dangerous with Virenque, because to get rid of him in the mountains coming the next number of days, it might be difficult. But they are just going to keep riding on the front as we've seen him. And when Virenque attacked, there was no sudden acceleration. They just kept on riding at their pace. They have it worked out very well, and Virenque, as we heard, he's just back in the bunch now. So that's the way they're going to react. And on the descent also, they're going to take no big risk. They're going to make this descent without taking any major risk for Lance or for the rest of the US postals. And for that reason, Virenque has a very good chance of holding on out here.
It's quite a sizable group still behind. If you're looking for David Miller in this group, he's riding for the Confidence Credit team, and he's got number 61 on his back. And those who've been following the fame or fortunes of the CSC team, and particularly Hamilton, who's struggled on with that crack to collarbone, we haven't heard about him going off the back. He's got number 71, because sometimes you can pick these out of the cameras go, and I'm pretty certain that a fair number of the Onse team is still there. Virenque with 11 on his back, who was there this morning on the general classification behind the 8 men of the US Postal team. He was just back there in 9th spot, 33 seconds down on Armstrong. He had Jaska there with him too as well. This is the man who this morning was 44th overall, 1 minute 52 seconds down, and he's got a bit of support alongside him. He's a lunatic with something around his neck, and I'm sure that probably Virenque would like to throttle him with that shirt, because now he's getting in the way of the cars behind. There's one born every day. That's it. One of the officials is going to give him a smart smack. And so if you are coming out to the race, don't get too excited, dear people out there, and start running along with the race. You might get mown down by a following car. But the great performance of today, undoubtedly Virenque, who got up to that breakaway group. Look at the polka dot jerseys here. He's had that polka dot jersey in the past, and certainly it looks like he's going to try and get it today. We'll get the score of Mike when we get toward the finish. Virenque, the winner of the polka dot jersey in Paris in 94, 95, 96, 97, 99. 5 years, or 5 times he's had the polka dot jersey. He's been 3rd overall in 1996 behind Rees and Ulrich. He was 2nd on 97 on the overall classification in Paris between Ulrich. And now he's going over the top, and the crowd are absolutely erupting as he goes over the top and on the descent. The noise is unbelievable. Virenque on the descent, 22 kilometres to go, a short, sharp climb to Les Jettes, and Mike has the profile of what's to come.
Yes, David, and instead of showing you the uphill, what about the downhill? Because there's quite a long downhill now, almost 9 kilometres, so it's about, 5.5 miles in English money, David. And there are parts that are quite steep. Look like that red bit there, where the blue line is now, more than 10%. That's quite steep. And we've said before that Virenque is a very good descender as well as a good climber. There's no point in being good at going uphill if you can't go well downhill, is there, David? And I'm sure that he can hold his position at least to the bottom of the climb. And then, of course, there's that one final little lump which you mentioned earlier, the Côte de Les Jettes, which is a 3rd category climb with just 8.5 kilometres to go. Boy, oh boy, look at Aldag.
Another man who could be looking to become the hero of the day for that special prize from the Côte de Lyon cheese people. Will he get the award of the most competitive for the day? Big tall guy like this has had to work hard to get up those mountains, or will it be Virenque the way he's gone to as well? Bettini started it all, he's gone back in the pack, and I think he's just hanging on for grim death too. But another quite good descender here, but the gap is 1 minute and 30 seconds between Aldag and Virenque. Now, Sean, what about this coming up toward the top? Doesn't seem any urgency there, does there?
No, nothing. We see the US Postals again setting the pace here, and we see Beltran on the front. I don't think he's giving it everything at the moment, and he doesn't have to, because the riders are not they're not in major difficulty at the moment with Virenque out front, as we see David Miller here hanging in on the bunch here, so that's a good sign for him. We heard Garzelli also came back to the bunch, so it proves that they're not really going at 100% when you hear a guy's getting dropped and able to come back again. So the interesting thing is we see Virenque there. He was tying his helmet just before he came over the top. Aldag did the same. So the descent here is going to be, as they say, on the rivet. They're going to give it 100%, and a lot of risk taking, because such an important moment in the race and in the stage.
Going back to the helmets, it was decreed by the governing body of the UCI just before they went into the 4 days of Dunkirk and before the Tour of Italy, that riders must wear their helmets at all times, except when they go to a mountain-top finish. Now, tomorrow on the Alpe d'Huez, they'll be allowed, as they start the final climb and through the flag, which signifies that they're on the climb, to take their helmets off. And when we saw it in the Tour of Italy to begin with, they went to organise the teams to collect the helmets, and the helmets were flying all over the place, and the public were just grabbing the helmets and running away as fast as they could do. And then they realised after that the teams weren't going to get the helmets back, so they've set up ways in which they catch the helmets, but they're not going to do it today because they're going down, up, and then down again. So they have to wear their helmets over these climbs, because they are going down the other side. But tomorrow the situation will be different, which makes it somewhat more easy to identify the riders on the climbs. And also there'll be, I said they should have a catchment tent to catch the helmets, as the US Postals, with quite a wodge of riders round about them coming over the top, including most of the contenders for the crown that have not been dropped so far. We know Bottero's been in trouble. I haven't heard him getting back, but certainly Selly's got back, but no sound yet of Simone getting back.
I just saw Pelazzotti, Tyler Hamilton is there, and another surprise that's there is Christophe Moreau from the Credit Agricole team. They certainly seem to have upped their game. Yesterday's great ride, and that today, Christophe being with this group is pretty terrific. But Tyler is definitely there, and Pelazzotti is there quite comfortably. I think Pelazzotti has a good shot at the white jersey overall in Paris, and I think that is his sole objective.
One man on his own, taking a chance to get away from that big pack behind them, chasing after the leader on the road, Virenque, who is saying earlier on, lives here, and that's where he is. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, well, it doesn't take long to get down these mountains, does it, David? Although this is a long descent, almost 9 kilometres, Virenque is already more than halfway down it. There he is, as we've just seen the peloton go over the top. So he is going really, really quickly. He's taking every chance on these corners in a bid to hold his advantage on the peloton, which I made about 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Taking a big sweep. He will have been practicing on this course, and we'll all be marvelling at his sending over the years. Keep your fingers crossed that he doesn't go off the edge. They're not too sharp, some of these bends, but you have to just be careful, because enthusiasm can take over. Not many people on the way down. They're all going to be on the other side, going up to Leggett. These are some of the riders, not the tail enders by any means, but we're going to be coming through about 6 minutes down.
I think I just saw Bogert in there in that group. Yep. And of course he is a good climber, so to see him off the back is a bit of a surprise.
Sandy Cassar also from Française Review there.
Just under 6 minutes, 5:43.
And it's looking good for Virenque, as Mike said, just under the 4 minutes, and the way he's going to descend, the way he's descending here, he's not going to lose anything. The Côte he gets, it's 4 kilometres of a climb, and not anything like the Col de Ramaz. So I think, he could, I could see him holding on out here. It looks very much he will.
So how's the polka dot journey looking, Mike?
Well, I did tell you to watch out for Monsieur Virenque earlier on, did I not? Here it comes. There you go. Big points for Virenque, getting to the top of the Col de la Ramaz, ahead of all his rivals, Aldag, Poilvet, and then the peloton behind. He has now overtaken Paolo Bettini, who unfortunately seemed to blow a gasket after, let's face it, giving his teammate Virenque a lot of help on the lower slopes. It's now Virenque, theoretically, the new leader in the competition, which he has previously won on 5 occasions.
Look at that, 6:47 in the pack down here to the group, which includes Carpets on the Benesto team. He's the leader at the moment on the under 25 young riders competition, so he might lose that white jersey, but certainly not to Virenque, because he's a very, I won't say old stager, but he's been around for a few years now. watch the style. If any young lads are watching here who want to take up cycle racing, this man had the style climbing up. He's got the style going down to a beautiful descender, as the main group still being led by the US Postal team, who aren't too worried about Virenque down the road, because the question is how many days can he stay out challenging. Tomorrow is a specialist sort of climb up the Alpe d'Huez, and they'll have very tired legs after today's racing too. A lot of riders being shot out the back, and amazingly so, I think the way is that Hamilton just there still.
Yeah, Hamilton is there, and that's Garzelli you saw in the yellow jersey on the side.
Back, yeah,
in the yellow colored jersey on the side. But he was looking behind him. I don't know if he's looking for his team car, but Eddie Mussolini came across the top of the mountain in that last shot of the group, of a small group coming over. So if he's looking around for Eddie for the next climb, I think he's not going to find him, because they're certainly not going to catch up to this group on the descent. But it looks like there's a few of the usual climbing suspects in this group with Armstrong. I'll be curious to see if he just lets that stay the same and doesn't try to put any distance between himself and some of the contenders on the first mountain stage.
That's 13k, you see it up there, but it's not all downhill. Like a little flick which we've been talking about, which Virenque will know. I don't say he's going to romp up it, but if he gets to the top of that with a lot of fire in his legs, he'll be on his way to a very emotional finish, because he did win here in the year 2000. He won a stage last year too in the Tour de France, you may remember, up that formidable climb of the Ventoux, and that was one of his only 2 victories last year. His victory numbers have been going down, but he still always managed to come out in the Tour de France and do something. In the year 2000 with Polti, we got this stage here into Morzine. In fact, his first stage victory in the Tour de France was way back in 1994, riding for Festina, when he got the stage into Lux-Ardiden. So he's been around for some years now. That's what, some 9 years ago since he won his first stage. He's knocked up something like about 42 victories coming in to the Tour this year. He's also worn the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, just for only one day though, but he has finished on the podium in 2nd and 3rd spot, and of course he's had that coveted polka dot jersey no less than 5 times. 11 kilometres to go, beginning to lose the road. I think this must be that little climb up towards Leger. In fact, say little, it's a bit sharper than it seems to be on the profile, doesn't it, Sean? A bit nasty in this particular part of the course, because this is the longest stage, 230 kilometres, and he's had about 220 kilometres of racing, and he's been out there for probably most of those 200 kilometres, hasn't he?
Yes, well, at this stage of the day, it's hurting everybody, and certainly Virenque, being out there for so long, it's bound to hurt. But I think, a lot of riders in the bunch as well are going to be hurting just to stay there. But when you're on the front like this, as Virenque is going for the stage win, and if he keeps a good advantage, he could also maybe take the yellow jersey, depending on what the action is behind from the US Postals on this quota gets. So Virenque has everything to ride for. He knows he's going to take the polka dot jersey, so he's really going to go really deep, and it's amazing how much you can push the body when you're going for something and you're on the route to maybe to take the yellow jersey.
We were talking earlier on about there's only 8 Belgians in the race, but he's riding for a Belgian-sponsored team, the Quick Step Davitamon team. So Belgium will also be holding its breath for a success today, because they haven't got that much to shout for as regards their Belgian riders. But with a sponsored rider from a Belgian background riding, he was actually born in Morocco, was Virenque, but of French nationality, lives in Switzerland, riding for a Belgian team. So lots of different people are going to have lots of different interest in him. But coming down here, looking at the way they're coming down, Sean, it doesn't seem like it's really eyeballs out screaming. What do you think?
Not at all. The US Postals are looking about, they're talking with each other. I think the word going around is, just don't get nervous, take it easy. Virenque out there is no problem. If he takes the jersey, it's a good thing, because he will try and defend it to Alpe d'Huez tomorrow. Definitely will defend it, and if he can hold it, they will defend it for another number of days. Something will suit the Postals, because it takes the pressure off them. So they're I think they're calculating that they're not going to ride hard after Virenque, and the way they're going about it, where we can see him there, it doesn't look like it at all.
Virenque riding that superstar that he has, and never ever lets up. The one thing about Virenque, he rides himself into the ground. Every time we see him, he's a never say die character, and all the climbs over the years that he's been out there collecting points in the Kingdom Mountains competition, he's given the crowd great entertainment, great guts, great determination, and everybody's waiting with bated breath. They're looking up there at Virenque, the sun beating down him. It's been up there in the 30 degrees of heat, and the heat is bouncing off the roads too as well. But I suppose if you're born in Morocco, you might get used to the heat, but it's been a very hot day in the saddle, and if you're switching on here to our coverage, do bear in mind that he and the rest of the riders, as at this morning, had covered 1,042 kilometres. That's over 600 miles. The average speed had been 45 kilometres an hour. That's about 27 miles an hour. And so there's a lot of miles at high speed on the legs of these riders. The first day in the mountains, it's already been proved the death knell for some of the riders behind. We've only probably got about 40 or 50 riders here, the riders that we're going to see in the top end of the field at the end of today's stage. One or two may be coming back off the top of that climb, and they may get shelled out again on the short shot one into Les Jets. But the US Postal's controlling it. We can still see behind there. Looks like Ulrich is just biding his time to allow him to do the work, and Virenque then riding on. The determination is there to see as he's now going up that last little climb of the day. When he gets over the top of this, yes, it's just 1.8 kilometers to go. Virenque is absolutely burying himself here. The determined written all over this is very similar, Sean, if you may remember when he came into Morzine the last time when he got that stage victory in the year 2000. He's such a gutsy rider, isn't he? And everybody can see him working. I'm not saying he does it for that, but he's a stylish rider, but even when he's going like this, he's prepared to try and keep his style going, but he must be hurting now.
Yes, it definitely is, but he's, he's working on it really well. He still looks, to have quite a lot of strength left, because he's touring that big year round, and the gap has actually grown 4:46 now. So it does answer the question about US Postals. They have, took it a bit easier, and Virenque has pulled out his gap. And the same thing as you said, David, when he won his last stage in Morzine, the determination is there, and when he gets up the road, he's amazing, because he can do these unbelievable rides on the day. So
the Americans here, well, American men on the front, they're just trying to do it. Got not an American in Paris, but an American in Morzine. Your comments about the US Postals then, Christine, and what's going on out there?
Well, I think they are employing the same tactic they employed last year, and that was when they let Gonzalez de Galeano take the jersey and defend it to really the death of Bolocchi's tour for 5 days last year, and they're going to do the same thing this year. As when Peña took the jersey, I think they had no intention ever of putting 1 ounce of effort into keeping it, and it's just been a blessing that for Peña that he's had it for 3 days, but they haven't worked to keep it at all, and certainly not today. They're not doing anything. But what I think is interesting is that none of the other people who would want to put a little bit of distance between themselves and Armstrong have decided to go ahead and try to get away at this point. I assume it's because they'll be shut down immediately, but they are allowing Armstrong not to spend much energy, and I'm surprised they're doing that. I'm surprised they're not making him fight a little bit harder. It's possibly because they don't have the power to control it, but either way, this doesn't really help anybody else. It kind of just gives you one more day of riding in the mountains, but with no advantage to it.
Just look at this, yet another group of riders coming over the top as Virenque is about to approach the finish. That gap then, something like about 15 kilometres between him and the group up there. And just bear in mind that they were pretty well, every day they've finished pretty well all together. So this is the damage which can be done in the mountains, a territory which knows very well indeed. When he went into Morzine in the year 2000, it was about 5 or 6 days from the end, and here he is now on the 7th day into the race, the other end of the race. He's now going to ride himself into victory, and could well be the way it's going into the yellow jersey too as well. So he's able to do it at the front end of the race and the back end of the race, winning into Morzine, a town in which we've been through something like about 15 or 16 times. We've had stage finishes in Morzine. Beautiful part of the world, lovely buildings, lovely green grass round about, great area for mountain biking, skiing in the summer too as well, and a very pleasant part too. In fact, last night we sat at our hotel looking out across the mountains. Very, very calm it was until it erupted today. And now in the heat, the horrid heat and the torrid heat, this man is riding in with his crowd have just turned out to welcome him over the top of this climb, and they all know if he's going to get here. They'll be looking at their watches anxiously to see back to the bunch, just willing him to get up the top of that climb and then to get down the other side. And it will really be, I won't say a ceremonial lap of honour, because it's come sweeping into Morzine, and there's a sort of sharp swinging left-hander. That is what lies ahead of him, this run off the top of the Lesiette down in towards the finish, and he's over the top of that climb, helping himself to more points in the polka dot jersey. He'll collect that one. He's going to collect the victory. Will he collect the yellow jersey too as well? There's a massive amount of riders. Sean, this is amazing here that so many have been blown out the back.
Yes, well, this is the gruppetto as they call it, and there's no major problem. We see the polka dot jersey is in there, but they have no problem because you know, from here on in they're not going to lose a major amount of time, and the time delay is quite big today because of a long stage. So you know, those guys are not going to push themselves, thinking tomorrow spare their energy for tomorrow.
The man there we call the bus driver, we're working out the time gap back, and all the 7 Australians are in there. You've been counting them, haven't you? Have they got the corks around the crash hats?
Oh, I just think it's funny, you know, they did dominate the first couple of stages, and everyone was talking about Australians, and now we see them all sort of reaping the benefits of that. They're all taking it easy and just going to try to survive these mountains. But Patrick Lefebvre has got to be jumping up and down at the moment, and just so happy to see his team working this stage absolutely perfectly, and also to have something happening for the last couple of days always from his group.
And just looking at the group of Armstrong, there's one Rogers. He's still, they say on the computer here, they're giving him with the group of Armstrong. Armstrong, Harris, Beltran, Rivera, Bellocchi, Yax, Vinyakrov, Manchebo, Mercado, Moncotti, Hamilton, Gutierrez, Moreau, Ulrich, Mayo, Roos, Rogers and Miller.
Good news then for supporters. In fact, there's only 6 Australians in the back there. There's now one up in the front.
And it's actually the only one who's going for a general classification position is Michael Rogers. So the quick step team has someone in every sense of the race now. They've got someone going for the polka dot, someone going for the green, and someone going for the general classification.
And for Rogers, a new kid on the block almost. He burst upon the scene a couple of years ago when he won the Tour Down Under. He'd been brought on by the Australian Institute of Sport, riding up based in northern Italy, and he's branched out now and been snaffled up to ride for the Quick Step team. A good little move, I think, on their part, because he's certainly got the ability, I think, to surprise a few people. And yes, long, tall, lanky lad though, but he's got over the climbs, as has David Miller. Miller looked a bit in trouble last time, but obviously now as Virenque is ploughing away at the front, they can just, I would say relax, but let this man get on with his job. And the watches will be very much in evidence amongst the crowd. In fact, up on the big screen, they'll be able to see him come through, and then above the finishing line, there is a clock going, and the clock count back will be to Virenque then at 1:52 this morning he was down, but do bear in mind he'll get 20 seconds bonus as well, so irrespective of what happens, that means 1:32 is the gap, which will give him the yellow jersey on his way down here in towards Morzine, and really he's starting to give it some stick now.
Well, he's definitely going to, it looks very much he's going to take the yellow jersey, because at the top of the climb, Coatley gets 8.5 kilometers to finish. He was 4:25 up on the group of Armstrong.
This is the 100th anniversary of the Tour de France. Started way back in 1903, and now we're in 2003. And
Aldag, we must not forget, he's still in there. He was at 2 minutes behind Virenque on the climb, about a kilometre from the summit of Col Gets. So, you know, he's still hanging in there, and I think he could hold on to take the second place of this stage. And what a performance by him, you know, considering the size and the body he has to carry up these climbs.
And he started this morning 2 minutes and 5 seconds down on general classification, so if he can maintain that, he might even move up into second or third place.
Yes, well, he definitely will move up quite a lot if he, if he keeps on going. And when he was, 2 minutes behind Virenque on the Dakota gets it, wins that, he still have, quite a lot of strength left to be able to do that.
So Virenque was 4 minutes up. He was 2 minutes up, and he's 2 minutes and 5 now, and he could descend very well, can't he, Aldag? So a chance of moving up from this morning being in 58th spot. It's like old snakes and ladders, isn't it? You played as kids, and right now they're going up the ladders, this little up. All these two riders. Look at the determination. This is it. He will know this route. He's been down the road before. He's had his victory there in the year 2000. And the determination written over his face. Just seen Graham Watson get off this motorcycle, ready to take the picture as he comes through. One of the most senior photographers in the Corps de Presse that travel with the race. He's going to get a happy snap of this one. Happy in many ways. All our press friends are coming here. Going to get a cracking picture of this one, Christy. I know you're a great photographer too. This is one for the album, isn't it?
Yeah, this is one. It's also, in the last 4 kilometers of this stage, it narrows. In the last 2 kilometers, it narrows quite a lot and gets very windy as it goes through this little holiday village of Morzine. Well, it's not really a little village, but it's quite a big village. And I'm not so much concerned about Virenque's going through it, but that large group, when they go through, we have seen crashes at the end many times. I think they'll have to pick their way through it very slowly because it's windy and it's a little bit dangerous.
Well, that'll only add to the advantage, I think, of Virenque, because they're not going to take risks going through there. So we've got more statistics from Mike Stato-Smith in Paris.
Well, it's not so much a statistic this time, David, as a plan of the last kilometre. The gradient levels off with about 3 to go, and then when they get to the Avenue de Jouplan there, just after the red kite anyway, the last kilometre, it sweeps round very, very sharply to the left, and then after that, as you can see, it's very snaky, very difficult. And I was just listening to what Christy said about it being dangerous for the group. I entirely agree with her. It's okay for Virenque, he's on his own, barring accidents. He should now win the stage, he'll get round okay, but we could have problems back in the peloton as they fight for the minor placings and endeavour to limit their loss on Virenque as much as they possibly can.
Just under 2.5 kilometres to go. Virenque sweeping into this very picture postcard town. Those of you who may come skiing here will recognise it, or Duke will recognise it because it's normally for you covered in snow. But right now it's the sunshine that's coming down here, and everybody's faces smiling, the crowd cheering on the side of the road to welcome here with 2 kilometres to go. And right in toward the finishing straight, there's an even more massive crowd. There's hardly anywhere that you can move, and everybody's so elated to see Richard Virenque coming in here. He's done a tremendous performance today, hasn't he, Sean? This is really what bike racing is all about.
Well, this is a big performance from Virenque. Something like we've seen before when we finished in Morzine, another performance like that. But a lot of people didn't expect to see this performance from him, didn't think he was capable of doing it. But he's definitely proved again today, when he gets out there on a break, he can really rise to the occasion and just turn it on. And that's what he's done today. And he's really done it at a fabulous level.
And he could be heading for the yellow jersey. He's held it in the past just for one day in the Tour de France in 1992. He's had that polka dot jersey 5 times. He took it first of all in 1994. That was 9 years ago. The determination of this, I would say old campaigner, but he was born in 1969. And so he's coming in here then, what's that, 70, he must be 33, 34 years of age. And that's a great achievement for a rider to keep up his enthusiasm throughout those years. It's 1 kilometre to go for a man who's always entertained the French crowd and the international crowd on the side of the road in the Tour de France. He's still going on because he knows he cannot just come along here waving to the crowd. He has to go, go, go. He's going to take the polka dot jersey. He could well take the yellow jersey. He's certainly going to win the stage into Morzine-Avoriaz as he comes down. He's got that little left-hand swinging turn in towards the finish, and here he comes round shortly. You'll see the finishing flag, and There he is, just a slight little rise, no harm to his legs, so I think, and the crowd, you can just see him on both sides of the road, and they're all starting to cheer in the finishing straight, and they're just raising it, they can see the big screen with him riding into an absolute hero's welcome. 350 metres left for Virenque to show that, yes, I'm back with a bang, and he could be in yellow as he comes out of the saddle, that final little thrust in those tired legs after 6 hours and 5 minutes of racing. Virenque rides into the longest stage of this year's Tour of France, 230.5 kilometres, and most of that he's been out there, either on his own, chasing down the breakaway, getting to the breakaway, going away, and coming in on his own to take the stage victory, and the whole of France erupts for Richard Virenque. Stage victory in Morzine. An escaper. We haven't seen Aldag at the moment, Sean.
Chavanel, another Frenchman, so he's looking for some glory, and he's, you know, after getting out of the bunch here, not a big reaction, they say, from the main part of the bunch of the group of Armstrong, let's say.
What about Aldag? I've had any news from the radio tour about Aldag. He's still there.
Yes, Aldag. As far as I can make out, Aldag is still in there. He was around, as I said, around the 2 minutes behind Virenque on the climb, so I reckon he's in between the Virenque and Chavanel.
One of the things I noticed was Lance, when he went over the top, he reached into his back pocket and he pulled out his eyewear, his eye protection. And Richard Virenque doesn't wear, or wasn't wearing any on the stage today. And you see him constantly blinking, looking down, trying to get the wind and dirt and dust out of his face. And it's kind of risky to descend like this without any eye protection. I mean, it only takes one bee or fly in your face to really mess you up, or even cause a crash.
We did have that the other day. I remember the Dr. Port on his announcement said that one of the riders, I think it was in the breakaway group at the time, did have something when he said go into his eye, but suggested that there was no more problems after that. Well, the main group coming in here, Virenque will have got 20 seconds bonus in addition to the time that he had when he crossed the line. There'll be a further 12 seconds bonus for the third place rider, and 8 seconds after that. Our cameraman is following Sylvain Chavanel, but not taking any notice of where Aldag's got to, so we're going to have to look down our finishing line here, Sean, because you felt his jump.
Yes, he is. He's at he was 2 minutes 10 behind Virenque, and the main group of Armstrong at 4:10. So Virenque definitely will take the yellow jersey, because with 4:10 he's not going to lose. He's not going to lose very much time, you know, on the group of Armstrong. So he's definitely going to go into yellow for Virenque.
And Aldag move a little bit up on the general classification. Do bear in mind that he's going to get 12 seconds bonus, which might be useful for him. So Aldag coming into second spot at the moment, and there the count back shows he crossed the line 2 minutes and 30 seconds down behind Virenque. Here comes Chavanel into third spot. That was a gutsy performance by Aldag today, and undoubtedly his team will be pleased with that one, because they had an up and down day in more ways than one. Botero getting dropped on that final climb of the day. Virenque tried to get across and didn't quite make it too. So as far as Telecom are concerned, they've been very pleased with Aldag's performance, but different kettle of fish tomorrow, because we're going to finish up that horrendous Alpe d'Huez climb. Chavanel coming through to take that third spot, and this morning he was 2 minutes and 56 seconds down. Not bad for Chavanel too as well.
No, certainly not. You know, to come out of the group of Armstrong with a number of kilometres to go at a stage like today, it proves that he is in very good shape. So you know, I think for the number of the rest of the days to come, I think he will be. We will see a lot of him. But Aldag, you know, what a ride by him out there from kilometre 1, so 230.5 kilometres in the breakaway.
Aldag or Virenque may take the man of the match today, but France will be very happy here. They've got first and third at 3:49 back to Chavanel from Virenque, and we'll have to wait and see what the gap is back again. And this is Rogers, I think it is. So Rogers coming in at he's 4 minutes and 2 seconds down, and here comes the little sprint across the line at 4:07 for the group containing Lance Armstrong. Well, at 4 minutes and 7, quick calculation that certainly from that with Virenque starting out this morning at 1 minute and 52 down, less his 22nd bonus 1:30. He's definitely in the yellow jersey. Aldag at this morning 2 minutes 05 down, so again adding 2 to the 2:03. That's about oh no, I don't think that's 2:30. He's not quite made it into second spot, but he would certainly have leapt up there. He was 2:05 down this morning. He'll look back again at Virenque, who's taken this stage into Morzine with a tremendously fine ride. Richard Virenque will be interviewed in just a moment, and Sean will be listening to that and relating it out to you. This man who will be going up on the rostrum to take the stage award. He's also going to take, according to our figures here, the yellow jersey. And I think Mike Smith back in Paris, it looks like he's got the polka dot jersey too, doesn't it?
He's certainly got the two jerseys.
No, the interview's coming up, Mike. Sorry, interview coming up. Sean.
I am here with Richard. The whole family is here today to triumph the record, and what a day, Richard. 200 kilometers in the front, and now you win a stage. Well, I think after 12 years of my career, today I didn't go for the yellow jersey. I went for the stage, and at the end I had the stage and the jersey. I tried and I tried. You know, the team worked well for me, Paolo Bettini. He had, you know, to slow down a bit to join that breakaway which he was in. You know, the objectives you had, they became higher and higher because with the win of the yellow jersey, yes. It feels so good. Every time I win a race, I win it my way. It's magical again. I wanted to do something, you know, on this special tour. You know, now I'm going to have a yellow jersey on my shoulders. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to enjoy this moment. Yes, I enjoyed it already. That's my goal. Every time I do this with passion. And that's what I need, that's what I like. A couple of days ago you said I don't believe about the overall standings. You said a stage victory. I swear to God, I didn't go for it. I just try, I go and this yellow jersey. But now that I have it, I have got to defend it. Yes, I'm going to wear it. They didn't give it to me. It's magical for me, for people around me, for my family, and for cycling too. For the Queens, the team Quick-Step David Damon, and for Patrick Lefevre. You know, he's helped to jumpstart my career. Bye, thank you.
Well, that's it then, Morzine, the 100th year of the Tour de France, the 90th actual running of the race with a spectacular victory by Virenque, and taking to that coveted yellow jersey. What a fantastic day for the France in this centenary year of the race. Cameras going around across the mountain, and more of them lie ahead for tomorrow's quite a large group coming here, 8 minutes and 40 seconds down. We'll be bringing you on Eurosport, the live programme here. We've been in the commentary box now for 7 hours. Bear with us if we've had the few ups and downs like they've had in the race too. And tomorrow, looking at those big mountains, we're going to have another big day in the mountains tomorrow. We're going to start in the Haute-Savoie and work our way around through from Salanches to Alpe d'Huez, and that will be 219 kilometres. And look at those big climbs they've got ahead of them then tomorrow. We go a second category climb, the Col de Telegraph, then we go over the Col de Galibier, Oak category climb, and then we finish up the Alpe d'Huez, another Oak category climb. These are the climbs. This is the view we're looking back down some of these mountains from a helicopter, and they're going to do the same thing tomorrow. And that Col de Galibier is 2,646 metres above sea level. Some serious climbing because they're starting way up. We're going the Col de Telegraph and then up the Col de Galibier. And so the man in the yellow jersey will be there, Richard Virenque. This is the result of the finish today. The gap back from Richard there, Aldag, Chavanel, Rogers. That's a nice thing to see, the Australian there in 4th spot. I think he'll be confident. Gazzelli came back too, finishing 5th there. Good to see Moreau too. He had a bad start to the season. Dufaux, one of the older riders in the race, a very skilled man. And Dave Miller into 8th spot too. Toshnik, the Austrian champion, in 9th, and Virenque, the winner of the Tour of Switzerland, into 10th spot. A good gathering of the clans there. They rode well together, all that lot, taking advantage, I think, to a large extent of the tactics of the US Postal team. But undoubtedly, the man here coming through, look at him, Bertini coming across the line. He helped enormously as he goes over there. Botero, I think, was in the same grip, was he, Sean?
Yes, Botero, yes.
And more awards for Richard Virenque, by the way. Look at that, Christy.
Wow, that is some list of Palmares. He is such an accomplished rider.
Because look, there is the general classification. Aldag has moved up into 3rd spot as a result of that. All the other riders back behind there were in that, those riders that were in the Team Time Trial Championship, or Team Time Trial race the other day, 69 kilometres of it. Aldag has leapfrogged into 3rd spot. Virenque has leapfrogged up into 1st, but the rest of those chaps there are pretty well those that were in the amongst the top 10 places before. Nice change in 1st and 3rd spot, and some reward, I think. But what an interesting little sandwich we got there, because between Virenque and Aldag is none other than Lance Armstrong. We look back again at Virenque coming in to Morzine, and yes, man of the match.
Well, looking at this list of wins for Richard Virenque and just general results, he has been at the top of his game for nearly 12 years, and that's a remarkable feat for anybody, and certainly a specialist like Richard. What he's doing today is really just showing the world that, you know, he's no way near retirement age. I think he's the same age as Eric Zabel. I think he's 33 years old.
He was born on the 19th of November 1969.
I'll do the math on that in a minute, but I believe he is.
This year.
Okay, 34 this year. And you know, when you hit the early 30s, and there's a beautiful shot of him hugging his 2 children. They are absolutely adorable. And you know, when you look at people in their early 30s, journalists keep asking them, so when you know, how much longer? And they're always looking for your end. But when you see a rider ride like this, you realize the end is really not close.
Sean, how long did you go on for? When did you sort of finally say, well, it's a bit time to go out and mow the lawn? No, in fact, your lawn wasn't ready then. You still got the house to build.
Well, at 36, I won Milan San Remo. So, you know, if you mentally, if you're right, you can do it. Because physically, it's still possible. In the one-day race, in the tour, it's a bit more difficult because your recovery slows down a bit as you get older. But I think if you're focused and, you know, you have the determination to go on, you can still do it at 35, 36 without any problems.
Talk about focus and one-day racing. Richard Virenque won the Paris Tour, which is one of the races in the World Cup, and he won that in the year 2001. So Richard Virenque is mainly known for his mountain climbing, but that one day he went away with a break, and my goodness, like he did today, he survived the end and got it.
Well, David, we've just seen the overall classification with Virenque on the top of that. And here we see him, as I predicted earlier, on top of the King of the Mountains competition. Great result for Rolf Aldag, though, moving up into 2nd place. 12-8 had been a bit of a hero as well today. So too Bettini in 4th place, who did such a lot of work for Richard Virenque. And a nice little statistic for you. Virenque is now the first man to win both yellow and polka dot on a day in the Tour de France for 32 years. 1971, the great Eddie Merckx. 32 years since anyone else did that.
Yeah, we're looking looking back at some of the action shots of Virenque on his way to that spectacular victory. When we're having the big ceremony, the presentations up on the rostrum, undoubtedly this massive crowd here that you see on the side of the road, they'll be retiring to the nearest place they can watch it. They can watch it also in the look-backs, which will be going on. Those who watch our live program now will be able to see, if you missed some of it, the highlight program going out tonight, and also Mike Smith's roundup as soon as we finish our program. I think we're running towards perhaps being a bit late running in towards the next program, but I'm sure you don't mind that to us, due to come on air after us as we're getting ready for the presentation of the victory flowers for the day and the jersey presentations. Normally we see the victory ceremony for the man on the stage, and sometimes we go back to yellow, but I'm sure we're going to hang on here to see that the yellow jersey presentation. They're running a bit late. A question mark, yes, thank you, Christy, about the green jersey. I think it's gone to Baden Cook.
Oh, okay, that's
look at you smiling.
Well, that's a good result as well. Oh, look. He's going to take his son on the podium. That's a pretty special place to be. Oh, and there's the daughter and the wife. Or is that his wife? No, sorry, it's the podium girl. But it's nice to see the kids there, and it's really nice to see somebody so proud of his family that he brings them up in his moment of glory to share it with him.
You're looking at, as we've now got Virenque up there, yet another victory in the Tour de France. He got his first victory in 1994 in the stadium of Lance Armstrong, and now here 9 years later, he's got another one to add to that massive list of successes he's had over the years, and still as excited as ever about his success today. What courage and determination. It just shows that the mind can push the body, and it's pushed him here. The family will wonder what it's all about, but this will be one for the scrapbook, and I'm sure it's being recorded back at home, and many years on his little son and daughter will be able to look at the day they were up with Daddy on the finish line when he created some history by not only taking the polka dot jersey and the stage, but also that yellow jersey too. Well, Sean, you're no stranger to getting up onto the victory rostrum and see him coming across the line in first place, but that must be emotion for Virenque today, for getting all those successes in one hit.
Well, that's what he said in the interview. He said, really, honest to God, I didn't, set out to take the other jersey today, and he had said that during the week, but he said a stage win, an important one, was the word he used, and also the polka dot jersey. If I feel good in the mountains, he said, but we have to wait and see the first day in the mountains. I'm always a little bit worried of it, he said, but what a performance today. He just went out there and worked for that stage, like he really went for it, and that's the style of Virenque. We've seen him do it before, and I think a lot of people didn't expect or feel that he's capable of doing it, but he certainly proved a lot of people wrong today.
There he goes yet again. Christmas has come. We saw Father Christmas, didn't we, yesterday on our shop? And he ought to be here right now, eh?
One of the things I really liked about his answers in the interview was that he said, look, I've sort of been blessed, and I got the jersey, and I'm going to wear it, and I'm going to keep it on my shoulders as long as possible. So he's really going to rise to it. We're going to see some good action tomorrow. I like to see somebody who's really wants to defend it, and the team will back that up for sure. So it's going to make this just that much more exciting in the Alps.
I bet he'll hang that at the end of his bed, or might even go to bed in that jersey tonight. Wake up in the morning, because he's got the yellow jersey. This is the Centenary Tour de France, and they've changed the colours of the strip we have on our little strings here around our necks to yellow and black, and certainly yellow it is as far as France is concerned. And Virenque, yes, Sean?
The jersey looks very big there. They must have been expecting somebody a bit bigger to take the jersey today, because it's almost down to it's a bit on the big size for him.
Yeah, unfortunately they zip it up around the back. He won't have to ride in it tomorrow. That's one of the special presentation jerseys, but he'll have a proper one for tomorrow. But whatever it is, it'll be there, I'm sure, in his room tonight. And the ride tomorrow is certainly going to be a tough one, because he's got the haute category climb of the Col de Galibier, which comes with 62 kilometres to go to the finish, and then after that one they've still got to go up the Alpe d'Huez as well. So it's going to be a hard day to defend that yellow jersey. the yellow could still be with him, but as he's coming up here yet again for more applause, he also had the polka dot jersey. That will in fact be passed down to the man who's second on the polka dot jersey competition for tomorrow, because he can't wear two at once, although he's now doing just that here. And but nevertheless, if he does go out of yellow tomorrow, and Holder France will hope that he doesn't when he goes up the Alpe d'Huez, where he first went in 1952, that he can have both jerseys. But whatever it is, whatever happens tomorrow, the whole of France now, who's been holding its breath till he came in to finish at Morzine, know now not only to get the stage and the yellow jersey, but the polka dot jersey too as well. What a day, Sean, eh?
Yes, what a day, and also the team, like Rogers, finished very strong there, which is promising, for the team. Bettini,
yes.
Of course, we see Bettini doing an enormous amount of work, so a great performance by the team. Also, the US post, I suppose you have to look at that. Armstrong, Ribeiro was fourth in the overall, Harris fifth, so they are still very prominent up there.
Well, David, just a very quick look at the favourites ranking after this explosive stage. Based on Armstrong, who has to still be the big favourite, Belocchi's now at 32 seconds, Ulrich at 38, and Manchego at 1:29. Tyler Hamilton, amazingly, stayed with that front group and is still right up there at 1:44. Garzelli at 2 minutes 2, Moreau at 2 minutes 2, and Botero and Simoni, two of the big losers of the day.
Looking back down the mountains, we'll be having the post live with Mike Smith taking us through to look at some of the happenings today, and after that we may run over a bit, and I think it's Mike Smith again, snooker from Sheffield. We're going to have two bursts of him, and then we're going to have the highlights programme well tonight. Don't forget to join us tomorrow when we'll be on air at 1600 hours Central European time. Thanks then not only to Mike back in the dungeon, who can't leave yet, he's got work to do, but Christy Anderson at the finish line here with Sean Kelly and myself, David Duffield. Until tomorrow, when we join you for that critical stage of the Alpe d'Huez, it's time to say bye-bye. What's been a